Professional football in America is a special game, a unique game. Played nowhere else on earth, it is a rare game. The men who play it make it so.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs and have some fun.
Coming now, buddy. We on our horse all day long. Let's just kick that ball all day long. Pick it up. Don't stop. Pick it up. Let's go.
Get after the ball. Catch it with somebody.
Regulators, mount up. We're coming.
Here we are, folks. It's the NFL preview show. What better way to lead you in than that little rash of sound bites there? You are listening to the official 87sportsfans.com NFL preview show.
The best day of the year.
That's right. I am joined by my usual NFL cohorts, Mr. Stephen Taylor.
Hi, guys.
And Mr. Jim Sarantias from thefantasygreek.com. Follow him on Twitter at thefantasygreek. Jim, how are you, sir?
Keith, Steve, doing great. So happy to be here for my first time with you guys doing this. This is great.
Yeah, this is going to be the giant three-headed monster. And what we're going to do, folks, just so you're aware, if you want to call in and weigh in on the proceedings and offer your opinion, ask any questions, the phone number is 585-633-7487. That's 585-633-7487. You can also email us at youguyssuck@87sportsfans.com. And also follow on Twitter at 87sportsfans or the Facebook page, facebook.com/87sportsfans. So we're thinking we're going to go division by division. We'll take breaks whenever appropriately, depending on how long-winded we get, since we all know how we have a proficiency for chatter.
Mostly you, Keith. Let's be honest.
Well, okay, fine. I guess that's fair. We're going to pick to go team by team, division by division, and team by team, and pick each team's records, and then pick the conference champion and the Super Bowl champion, and then we'll all reconvene. I mean, we'll obviously talk every week during the season, but we'll reconvene after the Super Bowl, and we're going to score this. So, say we pick the Giants to go, 12-4. If they're finish 11-5, then you get 1 point. If they finish 13-3, you get 1 point, because the goal of this little game is to be accurate. So whoever has the lowest score at the end of all this, and you get 3 bonus points for the conference championships, and negative 3 bonus points for the conference championships, and -5 bonus points for picking the Super Bowl champion. So whoever has the lowest score, just like golf, will be crowned the all-knowing NFL genius. I have to come up with a better title for the award, but that's what it will be.
It's simple.
And
makes sense. I don't think anyone's going to have any confusion over.
And hey, you know what? If whoever's listening, if you want to join the fray, if you want to email your own predictions, email them to youguyssuck@87sportsfans.com, and if you can be lower than whoever wins this thing, if you can get a lower score, then we'll throw in a 87sportsfans.com Beer Stein of Knowledge, which has only been awarded to one other person, and that was the winner of our NCAA March Madness.
Wait a minute, that really exists?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, yes. My brother won.
Oh, my God.
There's a nice photo of him holding it.
No kidding.
Yep, the Beer Stein of Knowledge is something to be coveted and cherished.
Yeah, we don't kid here.
That's all.
Sports fans.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh my God, I'm so glad now.
Awesome. So let
me ask this question. What's our format? Are we going through the AFC first, East?
Yeah,
South?
I guess let's go alphabetical order. We'll start in the AFC East. Is everybody okay with that?
I'm fine with that. I think finishing with the NFC's best, because I think there'll be more to talk about in that division anyways.
Well, considering all three of us are Bears fans, we'll probably spend an inordinate amount of time on the NFC North. So
Possibly,
yeah.
Yeah. So let's start with the AFC East. And, well, you know how I like to put you on the spot, Jim. We'll let the guest lead off here. Go team by team in that division and what you feel their records will be.
Okay, I have to obviously go off my draft guide, which was updated recently in terms of the fantasy football information, but not the football information. But I still like the way I picked the teams, even though there's might be one or two things that could affect the overall standings. I'm willing to roll with it. First off, I'm still calling this a Patriots. It's the Patriots division. I like them to win it. See them finish 10-6. I'm not going to change that. I'm really enjoying watching the Dolphins play in the preseason. I see a lot of upside with Ryan Tannehill and some of the things that they're doing on offense. That defense is really looking pretty stout right now. I'm going to call them at 9-7, and I think they're going to make the playoffs, or at least they'll be one of the teams there'll be some tiebreaker involved. Anyway, the third team and fourth team, this is where I think it's a toss-up, only because of some recent injuries that the Bills had. The Jets, their defense is still stout. It's looked great in the preseason. It's that offense that is going to be the bane of their existence this season, just like it was last. The Bills, I think, will find a way to overcome the injuries that they've gotten at quarterback, as well as the injury to Stephon Gilmore. It might take a little time. So I got the Bills finishing at 6-10 and the Jets at 5-11.
Wow. Steve-O, go ahead.
All right, I agree with Jim. I think it is going to be New England once again running away with the division. I was pretty close to where he was looking. I was looking more 11-5. Pretty much going off of this, I took into account the way the teams have been playing in preseason, injuries, how they're affecting each individual team, and then strength of schedule. And New England, they have been having issues, especially on the receiver side. Some of the young guys have been making mistakes as far as patterns they've run, and it's kind of thrown Brady off a little bit. But I think being Brady and Belichick, they will pull it together and finish 11-5. Miami, on the other hand, I'm in the same boat. They will be number 2 in the division. But looking at who they have to play, I'm swapping. I'm going to say they're going to finish 7-9. The only reason I'm going to say that is Tannehill, a lot of people don't know if he will, which of the quarterbacks from last year who were successful are going to have the sophomore slump. With Tannehill, I'm not sold on him yet. I mean, it could change, but for right now, I just look at who they're playing and some of the games that I think they could win if they were at home, they're on the road. Like there's a game on November 11th at Tampa. And then even the game December 1st at the Jets, who I don't think are going to be very good, but playing in New York in December could potentially be an issue. Same with Buffalo on December 22nd. So those games that I think they should win if they were at Miami, I think they'll lose because they're on the road. As far as the Jets and the Bills, I have a much bleaker outlook for them. The Jets, I think, are going to finish 4-12. Once again, going off of their schedule. And I think not only the injury is going to be a factor, but the injuries and a slow start, which right now with who they're playing in the beginning of the season, they have to play Tampa, New England. Those first 2 teams, if they start 0-2, I could just see a huge storm of media attention once again being poured on the team, and I think that compiled with the injuries and which it looks like it's going to be evident, bad quarterback play from this team, I just think they're going to finish poorly. And with the Bills, I actually, and now mind you, I am a Buffalo Bill hater, but I am putting that aside. They have a very difficult schedule, and especially for a team that's starting a undrafted rookie, which is the first time in NFL history I heard today that someone is going to be starting an undrafted rookie for the first game of the year. I don't think, even if E.J. Manuel comes back and can play, he hasn't had a full preseason. He is a rookie. I don't think Matt Leinart is really the answer for anything, and Kevin Cobb's probably gone for the season. Who knows what the defense is going to be under a new coach? Who knows what the offense is going to be? I have them finishing 3-13. So the only team that's going to make the playoffs out of the AFC East for me is New England. And to you, Keith.
Well, we're all pretty much similar, except I'm going to be the oddball. I'm going to be the optimist here, because first of all, I don't really see. I don't see New England being able to overcome Gronkowski being injured, Hernandez being a murderer. But they're not going to be atrocious by any means. But I actually have the Patriots at 9-7. But I have every now and then you just get a feeling about a team, and in this division, the team on the rise is the Miami Dolphins. And we're back after a little technical difficulty there. I was going through the AFC East predictions, and I said that the team on the rise in the AFC East to me is the Miami Dolphins. And I have them going 10-6. I think they're going to be a game better than the Patriots this year.
Wow.
Yep. Call me crazy. It's just a gut.
You're crazy.
It's a gut feeling right there. The Bills, I've been on the record and notorious for not liking the E.J. Manuel pick for where they picked him. Not that the player, may not be a successful quarterback. It's got nothing to do with that. But like we said, or like you said, Steve, he's not going to be ready for Week 1. It's kind of getting things off on a bad foot for a team with a new head coach, new everything, new philosophy. But I think they'll still be a 500 team at the end of the day. I have them at 8-8. The Jets, the Jets are a mess. Everybody, it's no surprise to anyone. And the only reason Rex Ryan is back for this year is because they couldn't get rid of Mark Sanchez's contract. I firmly believe that if Sanchez was able to have been removed from this roster, Rex Ryan would have been gone after last year. But it's the right thing to do because it would be unfair to bring in a new head coach with that pile of garbage that is Mark Sanchez. I have them going 4-12, and you will see a complete change in head coach. Sanchez will be gone if he's not gone by the midway point of this year, as far as being benched anyway. But when in the NFL these days, you get into that 9-7 range. If you're even 10-6, we saw with the Bears last year. 10-6 wasn't enough to guarantee a playoff spot. I think we could be looking at the first time in a long time where the New England Patriots are on the outside looking in at the playoff season, at the playoff picture.
I wanted to point out that Steve, I understand what you meant by sort of how you see the Dolphins finishing by looking at their schedule. But one of the things I noted about the Dolphins, which would make me think that they would finish better than the way you're looking at it, I think, is people forget that last season they finished with a 7-9 record.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no question about it that when you look at this team, they've gotten better through their free agency additions, and they're making all the right moves, and things are sort of coming together all at the right time. And that's why I think this is a team that will definitely finish better than 7-9. And in fact, I had them at 8-8, and now I just can't see that anymore after I've seen some of these preseason games. Mm-hmm. Whatever shortcomings you look at the offense might have, I think the defense more than makes up for it.
That's true. I was looking at mainly their offense when I made my call, because they are going to be playing some teams that are going to be putting up a lot of points, and they're going to need to score. And I look at, they have two receivers in Wallace and Hartline who are have done had good years last year, and they've made names for themselves. But they really, like I said, Tannehill to me has a lot to prove, and then Lamar Miller in the backfield, he's still unproven. I mean, he had only 51 attempts last year, but he could be great. He could be not good. There's too many variables right now for me to really jump behind them.
And I don't necessarily.
But I see what you're saying, though. I see what you're saying. They have looked good in preseason.
And I don't necessarily disagree with your thinking. I just think that when you sort of look at it, it's still just a better team. Mm-hmm. And even Ryan Tannehill in 17 weeks should be a better quarter. I mean, he already looks like a better quarterback than he was at the end of last year. Mm-hmm. And I would turn that around on Steve and say, or I'm sorry, Keith, and say, sort of the outlook for the Patriots, I think, sort of is, I think there's a very reactionary sort of response to everything that's happened to that team, the change in personnel, and, the Saints last year, I could sort of see it coming. I mean, I always talked about how it happened in the offseason for them with the Bounty Gate could really psychologically get under their skin and do things because it involved the team. What's happened this offseason has really nothing to do with the team in general, has a lot to do with individual players. None of them are necessary to have a quarterback that can throw 300 yards per game and 2 to 3 or 4 TDs per game, or let's say he gets 2 TDs and the running backs get 2. I think that's still the team to beat. They may not look like the Patriots of a year ago, but I think they're still going to be a pretty formidable team.
It's tough to bet against Brady and Belichick. It really is. Until one of them is gone, you got to think they're always going to be right there.
I think it's tougher to bet against Brady.
Yeah.
And because Belichick, everybody treats him like he's Yoda. And, somebody that's all knowing, who knows. And he kind of does remind me of Yoda, just he's much taller.
Yeah.
And not so green.
Exactly.
And the only thing I say with him, and the reason I say his name is somehow he made Matt Castle a hot commodity and a millionaire.
But here's the
thing. Still
thing.
blows my mind.
I never thought it was Belichick. I always thought it was Josh Daniels because I'm pretty sure he was the offensive coordinator at the time.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I think he was, yeah.
And, everyone that has worked in a Josh Daniels offense, and you name the quarterback, they have thrived in that offense. Mm. So long as Tom Brady's there and they're running that Josh Daniels offense, I think they're going to be okay.
But it's that franchise. I mean, you remember what Brady's first job was when he entered the league, right? It was clipboard holder for Drew Bledsoe. And it was only when Bledsoe got hurt, Brady comes on the scene and lights up the league. Now,
no, that's true.
Now, after that season, they chose to part ways with Bledsoe and make Brady the guy. But if Castle, if the shoe had been on the other foot, and Castle put through that season, and there was question marks about Brady, like there was about Bledsoe when Bledsoe got hurt, they may have done the same thing. And Matt Castle's career may have been different if he could have stayed with that philosophy, that franchise, that coaching staff. It's the Scott Mitchell syndrome when you go to a different team and all of a sudden you can't perform. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Bledsoe and Brady were in different levels of ability when they both went down injury-wise. I mean, Bledsoe was always a solid journeyman quarterback, but he was nowhere near the Brady category.
No, you're absolutely right. That was my hypothetical, is that if there had been question marks about Brady like there was about Bledsoe. But obviously there weren't. So that's why Castle was shipped off and had the season that he did. I'm looking at the depth chart on offense for the New England Patriots because defense, there shouldn't be much of anything different from last year. But looking at Danny Amendola, who is supposed to be the new Wes Welker, who hasn't proven that he can stay healthy yet. And I know it's hard to predict injuries, but he hasn't done it yet. Rob Gronkowski's starting the year on the PUP list. Okay. You have a lot of unproven. What made the New England Patriots offense so dynamic the last couple of years? It's been those two unique tight end talents in Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. They had the Wes Welker is a drag route guy. He's a 3-5 yards away from the line of scrimmage. He's not a vertical threat. Never has been. He's been a catch and run guy. Stephen Ridley, we're expecting great things, but we also expected things from who's the guy from Minnesota that they drafted 4 or 5 years ago.
But they drafted
the running back from Minnesota. Who is, I can't think of his name right now. They drafted Lawrence Maroney.
Oh, Lawrence Maroney. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone thought that he could be plug and played into that offense, and that didn't work out either. So I have big questions other than number 12, and there are people that will hack on Brady because lately he's struggled on third downs, but and I agree he has not been the same quarterback since that knee injury that he took in the when he got rolled up on that they had to change the entire rule for. Isn't that a sign of of what your status really is in the league if they change rules after you get hurt? Mm-hmm. But they're not going to be atrocious. They're not going to stink up the joint. I have a hard time projecting them for more than 9 wins. But to say that the Patriots aren't going to make the playoffs, everyone's going to call me a heretic, But
well, I don't know about that. It really is a tale of and how you see how things are going to fall. I just don't see the Patriots as a team just falling. I don't want to say falling apart because I think you said they'd finish 7-9 or 9-7. I mean, that's still a good record. Mm-hmm. There's nowadays, unless you win the division, you need something more than that in order to get into the playoffs. So, maybe that's all it takes is a 9-7 record. They get into the playoffs, and that's where they do some damage. I don't see them going deep into the playoffs because I think there's better teams around them. But, I just think it's very difficult to deny what Tom Brady has built as his career because I'm pretty sure he's been a top 5 quarterback 11 of the last 13 years. Mm-hmm. And I would take this player, anytime in reality and anytime in fantasy if he fell into my lap.
Mm-hmm. The last 7 games on the Patriots schedule, they go at Carolina, which you never know. I don't know what Carolina's going to be on offense. I don't think they're going to be very good, but they have Cam Newton, and if they can put it together, that might be a tough game. Then they host Denver. They're at the Texans, home against Cleveland, who should be a little bit tougher than last year, at Miami, at the Ravens, and then home against the Bills. Which 8-8 sounds like I'm underscoring the Bills, but that would be a marked improvement from where they were coming into this season. I think.
Yeah, but kind of what you were saying though about Gronkowski and how they're going to miss, Wes Welker and Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. But you got to remember they became marquee names their first season playing with Tom Brady. So he very likely could take the players he has with him now, and by the time you get to that stretch, they could be cranking along. I mean, they're coming off the bye week before they go to that stretch. By the time they hit that bye week, they should have everything working solid. So now if you look at that stretch and say they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. See, maybe in that first stretch I could see them losing to Atlanta and maybe Cincinnati, both those games on the road. So say they have a 7-2 record and everything's clicking. That's an easily maybe a loss to Denver and a loss to Houston, but if they are like the Patriots of old, that last stretch could not be very difficult at all, actually.
And, people keep forgetting. Everybody acts as if Robert Gronkowski died, and he didn't.
Yeah, he'll be back.
He's coming back earliest 3 weeks, latest 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Me, myself, I see 3 weeks, and I see it only because everything's been positive of his health. And secondly, compared to college where he took an entire year off, which, quite frankly, made all the sense in the world. He's a young man. He's not playing for anything. He's not playing for money. This is his job now. If the doctors say he's healthy enough to play, whatever the risks are, because those risks will always be there, that ends on the field in 3 weeks.
Mm. And, Jim, if you're right, if it's 3 weeks, they open up at Buffalo versus the Jets and versus the Buccaneers, they probably won't miss it. But after that, they go to Atlanta, to Cincinnati, home against the Saints.
Come on, Ken Tompkins, have you watched this kid play?
Oh, I got
receiving on 8 receptions.
He's
3 receptions, 30-some yards receiving, TD.
He's got the numbers. It's preseason.
I know, I understand that. But here's the thing, Zach Sudfeld, I did some more research on it because today I posted an update to our fantasy draft guide, which for our subscribers they get. So I'll clue you in on a little thing. His college reports were outstanding. The only issue that he had was his injury history. Every year in college, except for 2012, the kid was hurt and he required surgery. I don't know what the injuries were. Didn't look that far. But outside of that, all reports are that this kid, he sounds like he could have been ranked higher if he was just healthy. So I like what I'm seeing. Things, to some degree look a little rough, but I think this will all come together for him.
All right, we shall wait and see. At the end of this year, if we're looking at, Zach Sudfeld or Daniel Fells or Michael Humanawanui or even Jake Ballard. It's like, wow, what a great tight end we are. Then tip your cap to McDaniels and Belichick because they will have done it again. Absolutely. All right, so that's the AFC East. I mean, we just talked a little bit about our different expectations for the Patriots, but as far as the games won and lost, we're not all that off. I'm a little optimistic on the Dolphins, but I feel comfortable with that. It's wow,
Let me ask you guys a question. I know in terms of the Bills, I mean, some of the things that have now happened to them, I mean, it's just really it's just purely bad luck. But assume for a minute that E.J. Manuel was healthy, Stephon Gilmore was healthy. Don't you think that they would actually be a team that might be a year away from doing something?
They're a team that should be knocking on the door. You know what I mean? To make that step, kind of like the Dolphins were last year. Mm. You know what I mean? There were some signs of life. You weren't sure what to think, and then you watch them on the field, and there were some good things, there were some bad things. I think last year's Dolphins season is what we're going to see out of that team this year.
See, I don't even know. See, and the thing is I agree with Jim. I think if they – because also you have C.J. Spiller hasn't been 100% in the preseason, neither is Stevie Johnson. He missed quite a bit of it. If they were healthy 100%, I think that would definitely have changed my – outlook for them. But under a new coach with their injuries, I'm just a little more bleak. But yeah, if they were healthy, I think this year definitely would have been a 500 or better season with them. Like what I was expecting before the injuries this year is what I'm going to expect from them next year with a year under the coach.
And I know we probably want to move on to the next division. I just want to defend Matt Leinart for a moment. In saying, and I understand how he struggled pretty much with every team he was with up until last season when he played for the Texans. He actually looked like things were coming together for him. So he got, I forget what his injury was, but I know it ended of the season. It had to do with his shoulder. Up until that time, he was a guy that was putting it together. So I think what's a strike against him is the fact he's brought into a team, has to learn this playbook. They'll probably strip everything down, make it easy. But I actually think he's a better quarterback than people are giving him credit for. So we'll see.
That was very eloquent. I played the Incredible Hulk theme for you while you were trying to defend Matt Leinart.
Show.
I used to only play that when we talked about Barry Bonds back in the day in 2007. Or 2006 when everyone was on him, but there's no defending Matt Leinart. I'm sorry.
Sure there is. I mean, the guy got herpes from Paris Hilton in his rookie season, so I mean, you got to give him something.
He's going to end up like Al Capone with syphilis and fishing off the back deck of a hospital.
Oh God, is that what Alcatraz is now? A hospital?
No. And on that tangent,
that was just said.
Yeah.
I take no part in that.
Let's take it's 9:30, already a half an hour. Let's take a quick break, catch our thoughts, wet the whistle a little bit, as they say, and we'll come back and we'll break down the AFC North. We'll piggyback the North and South back to back. You're listening to the 87 Live Preview Show on 87 Sports Fans Radio. We'll be right back.
We don't have to sacrifice. We don't have to change our ways. Just keep rolling on and on. Sleep through days and days and days. We work all day and nothing gets done. We don't really care, just passing time. We pass the days, the months, the years. We cash our checks, we lose our souls, we hide our tears. My brain is getting numb, my heart is getting weak, my body's getting old. I'm having trouble speaking, and my eyes can't make believe that they still see. I point to all of this, I'm walking away, I'm leaving no regrets. The end begins today, because it's inconsequential life, it's killing me. It's killing me. Time keeps rolling like a snowball, faster and faster as it goes downhill. The youth you thought would never end it all. Oh, how you wish you could make the time stand still. And all the dreams you have protected, you tuck them away up on a shelf. Well, it seems they felt neglected and ran off with somebody else. My brain is getting numb, my heart is getting weak, my body's getting old. I'm having trouble speaking, and my eyes can't make believe that they still see. I point to all of this, I'm walking away, I'm leaving no regrets. The end begins today, because it's inconsequential life, it's killing me. Feels like I'm lost with no direction. Feels like I'm blowing in the wind. And this is the end. My brain is getting numb, my heart is getting weak, my body's getting old. I'm having trouble speaking, and my eyes can't make believe that they still see. I point to all of this, I'm walking away, I'm leaving no regrets. The end begins today, because it's inconsequential life, it's killing me. It's killing me. Yeah, it's killing me. It's killing me.
You're listening to the 87sportsfans.com NFL preview show. Keith Greaves, Steve Taylor, and Jim Sarantias taking you through everything. Going to hit up the AFC North and the AFC South back to back before we take another break. So don't worry, kids. Plenty of football coming your way here. But first, let me take a chance to talk to you about CG Imaging. And what do? They bring your ideas to life. And how do they do that? They do that with 3D realistic rendering. Imaging, that's the word I was looking for. Say you're trying to pitch an idea to your boss and your ideas and your sketches just aren't doing the trick. Go to CG Imaging. Maybe you're trying to sell a product to a customer and you're trying to show them what that product looks like in their space, CG Imaging can make that happen. Maybe you're starting a business, you need a logo. They designed our logo and the header for our website, so go to their website, cg-imaging.com, CG Imaging, virtually creating reality. Alrighty, back on track here. The AFC North. Last year, the Houston Texans, surprisingly... wrong division here. I'm getting all kinds of...
Wow.
You want to know what happened? It was because when I was making my little cheat sheet, I was rushed, okay? And I inadvertently left off because my printer was out of color ink. So it left off all the team names. So I was writing them down by hand. And I had a brain fart and totally hit New England in the AFC East and then jump right to Cincinnati in the AFC North. So my sheet was all off. And then once we got going, I forgot to go.
Yeah, your sheet's always off,
Yeah.
Keith.
So the AFC North, the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals tied 10-6. However, Baltimore took the division. The Pittsburgh Steelers 8-8 a year ago, and the Cleveland Browns 5-11, which saw a regime change, a new head coach in Cleveland. So, Steve-O, why don't you take the leadoff spot in this one? Go through the AFC North for us.
All right, I'm going to start at the top and work down. I think Kansas City is once again going to finish 10-6. I think they're. What's that?
Not Kansas.
Or not Kansas City, Cincinnati. I'm sorry. See, Keith, you got me all screwed up, man.
Yeah, I do what I can.
Yeah, I hate you. Yeah, I think Cincinnati's going to finish 10-6. I think they're only going to get better from what they were last year, even though the record's the same. It seems like they have a little bit more of a difficult schedule than they did last season. But I think they're definitely going to make a solid push and be the tops of the AFC North. They have pretty much everyone returning another year, working with the offense that they've had that was so successful last year. I think that they'll easily be 10-6. I have a tie at number 2. I think Pittsburgh and Baltimore are both going to finish 8-8. The reason I say that is Baltimore, they have not looked good in the preseason, and they, as everyone knows, their championship team from last year was pretty much decimated. Quite a few of the players that were there.
And we have lost Steven. Jim, are you still there?
I'm still here.
I don't know what is going on.
That's okay.
Today.
I think what Steven meant to say was that there would be a tie between the Ravens and the Steelers. It sounded like what he was going to say was that the Ravens have had some issues in the preseason, and it's fairly apparent.
They lost a ton of people on the defensive side of that ball club.
They did, but I'm a believer in that defense. I think, they have enough returning personnel. They're running the same scheme.
Right.
They've got, Elvis Dumervil? Come on.
Right. That pass rushing ability right there solves a couple different issues.
You were talking about depth charts, and here I am. I'm in the process of pulling up the depth chart for the Ravens, and I just looked up and down this roster, and I see Pro Bowler, could be Pro Bowler if they allowed more people from the same team, and defensively, they've given up some points in the preseason. That's fine. That's going to happen. I think offensively is where they need a little time to sort of catch up.
Yeah, I think Steve is back. Steve, are you?
Is he?
Yeah, it wouldn't be the same
Keith.
Without technological hiccups.
Well, we were fine. It's on your end this time, so.
I don't know, Mr. Grieve.
We never lost our signal, so go ahead.
Okay, no, I'll finish off quick so Jim can get back to what he was saying. Baltimore and Pittsburgh finishing 8-8. I think Cleveland actually has a very difficult schedule this year. I don't see very much improvement in any facet of their game. I think they're going to be 2-14. That's what I'm staying.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
They have a really difficult schedule. If you look at some of the teams they're playing, it's harder than Pittsburgh or I'm saying New England's schedule. So you have a Cleveland team that is playing a championship level schedule, and I don't see them winning.
They got hammered last year on their schedule too.
Mm.
Yeah, it's really odd that you say that because eventually we're going to get to one team I can't wait to talk about. When I started looking at their schedule, I suddenly got really, really excited because I'm like, oh, I have their quarterback in one of my fantasy leagues. And
we have a phone call. Let's go
take it.
to the hotline here.
Oh, no, is it Monty? Because I said Cleveland's going to 2-14.
No, it's Mr. Klein. How are you, sir?
Hey!
Jamie.
Hi, Saxes.
Hi, man.
Oh, boy. Here we go. We haven't gotten to the NFC East yet.
I was hoping to catch the beginning of the show here.
We blew through the AFC East, and now we're hitting the North and the South. We're talking about Cleveland and whether or not they're going to be better than last year or anything like that. And the last segment, I predicted the Patriots weren't going to make the playoffs. So that's as far as we've gotten so far.
I'm listening. I'm glued.
All right. So you're going to sit in the background and just pipe up from the peanut gallery or what? Okay.
I'd say that's a yes.
I'd say that's a yes. All right, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, here, let me first start off by saying that I think the entire division is up for grabs, with the exception of the Browns. Steve, I tend to agree with you that they do have a tough schedule. I think it's tough. A lot of good things have happened to them, more so from an offensive coordinator standpoint. I mean, Norv Turner's done some amazing things. We're seeing it with Brandon Weeden. And, Cameron Jordan is going to be great. Or Jordan Cameron, Jordan
Cameron. I actually I was disappointed when he was taken in our fantasy draft the other night.
Oh, I saw him taken as a TE1, which I thought to myself, well, that was ballsy. But I do in one of my leagues have him as a TE2, and I'm very happy. But anyway, the point being that it's tough. They're not gonna have Josh Gordon for 2 or 4 games, whatever his suspension is. It's like the Steelers, the Ravens, the Bengals, 3 really good defenses. The Ravens, as I explained when we lost Steve, I still think they have a great defense. The Steelers, I think, are going to have a great defense. Even they're getting older, and I get that, and everybody wants to say that getting older means that for 17 weeks they're not going to be good, and that's just not true. They have a lot of depth, a lot of good young guys that they drafted. Ben Roethlisberger the other night when they were playing they weren't playing the Bengals, they were playing somebody help me out here.
Oh, the
Anybody?
Steelers?
Anyway, whoever they were playing.
The Steelers you're talking about?
What's that?
Talking about the Steelers?
Yeah.
Kansas City last week.
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
He did his little, escape from the rushers and got into the open and made the great pass for the great play. They're going to have that. I think it's up for grabs. And I have the Ravens winning it. I'm not going to change that right now because it's 17 weeks of a season. And the only reason why I'm going to hold back on the Bengals, because I do think that they're a tough team. They definitely got better by adding Tyler Eifert. I love Gio Bernard. I think if you're playing fantasy football, get him as your RB3 because as the season goes, you're going to be using him a lot. And definitely in dynasty leagues, I think there's a lot of long-term value. But my problem with the Bengals has been that even though I've seen sort of, wow, this team can be great, we've seen, them sputter and have some issues. And some of that's on Andy Dalton. I mean, he's getting some protection, and they're just not making plays. And, it's like last year, everybody got on that Andy Dalton bandwagon, and I'm like, why don't you wait? He just hasn't done it yet. So I'm going to stick with the Ravens, and it could be ugly. And we could even see the Steelers win this damn thing. But I'm going to stick with the Ravens for now.
All right.
So I got the Ravens 10-6, Bengals 9-7, Steelers 9-7, Browns 6-10.
All right. I have the Ravens winning this division at 9-7. I think that this season is going to be a slugfest for them. Everyone forgets. I mean, last year they were only 10-6. And they got hot at the right time in the playoffs, and they had a couple plays go their way, and Flacco, got the nice big contract, but he's still Joe Flacco. You know what I mean? I know he got the money and all, but he doesn't scream, Brady or Manning to me. Yes, maybe he will at the end of the day, but yeah, and he earned his money. I'm not taking anything away from the guy, but I don't see him taking that team on his shoulders and carrying them all season long. So I'll say the Ravens at 9-7. And then I have Cleveland and Cincinnati both at 8-8.
Oh.
Which means that my
Wow.
pick for the team to fall from the heavens is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow.
And I think that they are going to have an awful hard time running the ball. I think that will create problems for Roethlisberger. I know he's got the escapability and all that, but I think at the end of the day, at the end of this season, we are going to be very disappointed in Emmanuel Sanders and Antonio Brown as wide receiver threats. And I
How
think,
about Marcus Wheaton, though?
well, as somebody might step up, he might be somebody that steps up and maybe takes the heat off it. But I don't think that this team team is in transition, and they're going to have to take a lump somewhere. And I think it's this year. And I'm picking the Steelers to go 6-10 this year.
Wow.
Wow.
Yep,
That's a bold statement.
I'm telling you. Cleveland, I think, is a 500 team, and
Are we live? Because if we're not, you should really edit that out before any Steeler fan hears what you just said.
nobody knows where I live.
Are we? Are we live?
Yeah, we're live. Nobody knows.
Oh.
Nobody knows that we. If you want to call and chat, 585-633-7487. That phone number again, 585-633-7487. That's right. I picked the Pittsburgh Steelers to win 6 games this year.
Wow.
Against who?
Huh? What's that?
Who they play? Who do you think they're going to win against?
Well, let's see. Let's go down. Let me call up their schedule. See, like I'll be the fool that picks them. They're going to split the division, okay? And so that leaves 3 other wins on their schedule. They're going to beat the Raiders. They'll beat the Bills.
Yeah.
And they'll beat Tennessee.
Oh, okay, I agree with that.
You really don't see them beating Cleveland.
They'll split. I said they'll split. They'll split the season series with the division. In the division, they'll win the home game.
Wow.
And there's 3 other wins on that schedule. This is not your father's Steelers team. I'm telling you that right now.
Wow. I'm
You go ahead. You call me crazy, but you remember the last time that we did this game, who ended up taking the crown? It was me. That's right.
Yeah, that's just because I picked Philadelphia to win.
I didn't even count that year because you were so out of whack with that 0-16 prediction. Anywho. So yeah, but Steve, you're way off on Cleveland. I'm telling you, 2-14 for Cleveland. You're got your head.
Have you seen their schedule?
I don't. Yeah, I understand it's tough, but you understand that with the new, as much as people are making a big deal out of Norv Turner and him handling Brandon Whedon in the offense, you can't ignore Ray Horton taking over this defense and the impact that he's going to have. They pick up Paul Kruger from the Ravens. They have Joe Hayden at one corner. They got up front. They're as tough as anybody up front. So.
Yeah, but I mean, once again, you're talking about Whedon. I mean, he's one of the main ones in my focus because he had a solid year last year yardage wise, 14 touchdowns, 17 interceptions, and 6 fumbles. Now you could hope that he's going to have a prosperous, season this year coming off of that, but I'm not sold. I mean, he's not somebody. To me, them and Pittsburgh are in similar abilities as far as positions for the most part, except for a quarterback. I don't like Ben Roethlisberger. I hate the rapist probably more than most quarterbacks in the league, but he has won a couple Super Bowls and he knows how to win. It's kind of the whole things. A lot of the arguments I get into people about Eli Manning, where everyone has low expectations. It's like the guy won a couple Super Bowls. He's done something right, and that's what I have to say about Roethlisberger. It's like, listen, I understand that Pittsburgh, and I agree with you, they're kind of going through I wouldn't say rebuilding, but it's going to be a little bit of a downtime. But they still have a guy that knows how to win. I don't see that. When I see Brandon Whedon play, I do not see that. And no matter how good their defense is, if they are on the field 75% of the game, they are not that good. They're not good enough to win the games for them. That's the only reason I'm picking them as low as I am. It's just I don't see that offense being able to do much.
I disagree. I mean, they're not gonna light it up like the 16-0 Patriots in 2007. It's not gonna be that kind of offense, but they're not gonna be lost, thrown to the wolves. Absolutely, that's a 500 team right there.
All right,
I'm telling you,
that's gonna be interesting. That's our first real throw it against the wall debate of this season so far.
Well, yeah, if you pick a team for 2 wins. Then if a football team can't win more than 2 games, then it's time for regime change, and they just had it last year. They have to be better than last year. They have. You
can think so, but that doesn't mean that they have to.
They have to. I'm telling you, they have to.
All right,
Steven. All right. Anybody else have anything on before we moved on to the AFC South?
Just a question for Jim. Jim, what do you think of Emmanuel Sanders? I might have missed that if you did talk about him, but how do you think he's going to do this year?
I go back and forth on him, and I'll tell you why. When I did my analysis of both he and Antonio Brown in the draft guide, I just couldn't find a great reason to boost their stats tremendously with the loss of Mike Wallace.
Okay.
When they've had opportunity to sort of step up, they just haven't done it. I'm not saying they won't, but from my perspective is always fantasy football, are these the guys I want to take a risk on? And the answer is no. There's a time to draft them, but I could think an array of players to take ahead of them before I'd say, oh yeah, I'll go ahead and take one of these guys. And why I asked about Marcus Wheaton is because I love Marcus Wheaton. He was a top 5 draft pick among the wide receiver class this year. He's big, he's fast. He's got all sort of the tangibles of a Mike Wallace, and I think we have not heard the last of him. He's a rookie. That sort of cuts against him, but I think he's a great guy in dynasty leagues. You should draft him, and if you want to take a late-round flyer in just a standard league, taking him in the 15th, 16th round I think is great. Put him on your bench, and let's see what happens, because he could be a guy that could really stun people.
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
All right. Moving on to the AFC South. Last season. Make sure I'm looking at the right chart now. The Houston Texans 12-4. The Colts surprising everyone 11-5. Tennessee 6-10, and then the Jaguars at 2-14. The Colts, it's just not to waste too much time talking about last year, but when you think about everything that Indianapolis shedded from a roster standpoint, and then they bring in the rookie Andrew Luck. Obviously, everyone knew going into this he was a kind of a unique animal. But 11 wins and guiding that Colts team to a playoff a year after they were so atrocious with Curtis Painter and Kerry Collins at the helm. It's just nothing short of amazing. Now, they lose their offensive coordinator, who was also their acting head coach last year. Obviously, he's now the head guy in Arizona. So we don't know what impact that may have. It may have nothing. It may change a little bit here or there. But this is still the Texans' division. There's just too much. I know Matt Schaub's got his weaknesses. He's very quickly being exposed as maybe not quite as elite as everyone thought that he could be, but he's still throwing to Andre Johnson. He's still got Arian Foster, and until that they prove to me, even with Ben Tate as a backup, even if Foster's back injury creates more of an issue, until they show me that hinders their ability to run the ball, it's still Houston's division, and I have them at 11-5. I have the Colts taking a small step back at 10-6. Tennessee was 6-10 last year. I see them as another 6-win team, if not worse. I think that might be optimistic for the Titans. I don't know what's going on when I look at that roster. In Jacksonville, okay, you're going to improve, but better than bad doesn't necessarily mean good. It's 4-12, and more questions about just where this franchise is going. So I'll kick it over to the Peanut Gallery, or Jim, you can take over and go through your predictions if no one's got anything.
Okay, I agree with you. I think this is the Texans' division. It all starts with their defense. Just, suffocating, in your face, playing hard, special teams. They have a great kicker, by the way. I love that kid, Justin Bullock. If in fantasy football, draft this kid. He can hit 50, 40-yarders at will. He was out last season, by the way, with a groin injury. Otherwise, he was, I think he hit every field goal except for like 3, and I want to say all 3 were blocked. Arian Foster, for those of you out there, I have a great article on my site about his injury and how to handle him in fantasy football. He's not done. Again, it's a 17-week season. It's a marathon. It's not a race. Whatever his problems were, it doesn't sound like he herniated a disc. Surgery is not required. They're just treating it like you would anybody else that just had some minor back pain. So I still like them. The Colts, I love them, and I already think I told you guys I thought their defense was a sleeper defense this season, because last year they drafted heavily on offense, and in free agency brought in some guys, handled the switch to the 3-4. This year they started drafting guys for the 3-4, brought in more guys, and I think their defense is going to be a formidable one. And in fact, if you're listening out there, I'll give you my defense for week 1 you should play is the Colts, because guess who they're playing, guys?
Raiders.
You got it.
I actually drafted them in our draft because of that fact.
I think that's awesome. I forgot about it in one of my drafts, and I'm just like, I should, consider picking them up. But
so wait a minute. I'm sorry, Steve. You drafted a defense for 1 week.
What's that?
You drafted a defense.
No, I couldn't make up my mind on who I wanted to be my defense, and I had a few players or a few defenses kind of floating around there. And when that was the deciding factor, I'm like, well, week 1 they're going to be at home against the Raiders. That pretty much it was the thing that pushed me over the edge on the Colts. So when they were available, and you know how in our draft people actually were picking defenses early, so it got down to where there was only a few really solid ones. And how can you go against it? Just like Jim said, their defense has improved, and to start the season that way, it's going to be a good kind of kickoff point for my team.
Okay.
Sorry, Jim, you can finish it.
No. I was just listening to everything they had to say about it. So they're one of my sleeper defenses. Would I draft them as a first defense? No, but they're definitely a defense that's in the back of my mind. These guys could really, rise to the occasion. There might be more times, more games that you'd want to play them than bench them. Put it that way. Uh-huh. Then the one thing about the Colts, though, that still I kind of don't get is everybody is so fascinated with Andrew Luck, and I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. He's clearly not. But for him to take a step from where he was last year to where everybody is saying he's going to go, it's a big step. Mm-hmm. The way the offense is set up, it's set up for a lot of short passes. I have Reggie Wayne on one of my teams, and I'm a little nervous about it because, look, I could see the guy getting 1,000 yards, but can he do more than 5 TDs? I don't know. Can he do more than 1,000 yards? Like 11, 12, 13, 1,400? Not looking so good. So I think right now Andrew Luck's being overdrafted way too early in some leagues. I think he's more towards the end of quarterbacks. But as a team overall, I like what they've done. There's no reason for them not to finish. I have them at 9-7, the Texans 10-6. The Titans, a team that if they had a quarterback, would be fantastic. Great defense. Improve their offensive line. Chris Johnson looks like a running back. He still has one cut. Let me burst into the open field and take it to the house. But he's starting to run between the tackles, getting 2 yards, 3 yards, 7 yards. He's doing what you're supposed to be doing, and I like that. So I love Chris Johnson as an RB2. The team as a whole, I have him at 6-10. So much of this depends on Jake Locker, and I don't know that I have the confidence in him. I almost would rather see Ryan Fitzpatrick from a fantasy standpoint. They have a bunch of great receivers. Nate Washington, this guy, it always turns out every year, maybe not last year, but every other year, somehow this guy becomes relevant. And the other day he had 70 yards receiving. I think he had a touchdown. How does this guy do this? Mm-hmm. And lastly, we got the Jaguars. Somebody please, just this whole Blaine Gabbert. Come on. I understand why they want to give him a chance because last year the kid got sacked 40 times. But the year before that, he was sacked 20 or 22 times, and he still wasn't good.
He was.
And
You watch the tape.
He was fine, but God.
You watch the tape out of him out of college, and he was flustered even when there wasn't any pressure. That's what I remember watching before the draft when I was trying to, I sound like I knew what the hell I was talking about. You watch video of him in college, and there would be nobody around him, and he'd start moving his feet and getting all nervous and jittery. It's one thing to feel pressure, but it's another thing to feel pressure that isn't there. And then when you get knocked around like that, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing. He's missed 8 games in the past 2 years, and now he's missing a game in the preseason. And he looked like he did genuinely hurt his hand or finger, whatever it was, but you're still kind of looking at this situation, thinking to yourself, Maurice Jones-Drew, he should be fine. Definitely love him as an RB2. Has a lot of upside to get back into the elite quarterbacks. Justin Blackmon can be so great if you just get him the ball. And, Cecil Shorts, here's another guy that obviously can play great regardless of the quarterback. I see good things for the Jaguars, but they're still at least another year away.
Mm-hmm. The only good thing about the Blaine Gabbert situation is that you have Chad Henne backing him up, and he's not a terrible option. Should you have to go that route, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. He's the guy I'd rather have at the helm on this team.
And Cecil Shorts, I don't know if you really know what you have there. Blackman's going to be suspended for the first 4 games of the year. So, Mercedes Lewis, okay, he's got the name value, barely, And they went and they drafted the right tackle in Jocko. You still got Meester, the center, which every time I say his name, I think of Happy Gilmore. Meester, get me out of here. But on the defensive side, there's really not a whole lot to talk about,
A great secondary.
Yeah, Jason Babin, great. Not really. That was sarcasm. Paul Pleslasny is your middle linebacker. Geno Hayes comes over from backing up in Chicago just to play right outside linebacker. There's a lot of question marks all over, and to not have the quarterbacks department even close to being solidified, it's just going to be a long season. The only curiosity I have on this team is to see if Denard Robinson has any impact at all.
Here.
And I don't know if we're really going to see it this year. Alrighty. Well, let's take that was 2 divisions. Oh, we have to get Steve, don't we? We do have to listen
I'll be
to Steve,
quick.
don't we? I'm just kidding.
I don't know how I agree with you on 2, Keith, but I do. Houston, I picked 11-5, and Indy 10-6, and I agree with a lot of points both of you gentlemen had to say about it. Tennessee, I have them 5-11. I'm not sold on the quarterback, and I've always been one of the biggest. I believe that Chris Johnson is overrated as far as his abilities. He had a couple good seasons. He is, to me, the Dwight Howard of the NFL.
Oh no!
And I said it. And then Jacksonville, I put him at 3-13. To me, if they were a horse, someone would have dragged him out into a field and shot him quite a while ago. I'm going to leave it at that.
I think Jim was right. This is the year that Chris Johnson comes back and is a force.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see. You said that 1 year. Oh, that's right. That was right.
See, but then he went and got stupid. See, when
I
made that comment, yeah, because
it was just bad.
Right after right after he held out for more money, then all of a sudden he stopped being able to run. But when I made that comment, he was the best back in the NFL.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. Oh boy. Well, I sense the tension, so let's take a quick break, and we will come back and hit up the AFC West, and then we'll talk about who we think is coming out of the AFC. Going to the Super Bowl. You're listening to the 87 Sports Fans NFL Preview Show on 87 Sports Fans Radio. We'll be right back.
Clearly something foul has got a hold of me, pin me to the ground and sank its teeth in me, injecting and infecting every vein with hateful venom, and it slowly took control. took a toll on me. Surely Dr. Jekyll wasn't always mad. Once upon a time he was a nice young man, twisted and corrupted by the fate of our existence. Then one day he lost control. Yeah, he just couldn't take it, so he took a vacation and called in from Mr. Hyde and said, it's about time. Oh, it's got this hold on me. And girl, you took a toll on me. You cannot save me from the monster I've become. You cannot save me from. You cannot save me from the monster I've become. You cannot save me Oh, it's got this hold on me. And girl, you took a toll on me. Oh, you cannot say it's got this hold on me. And girl, you cannot say you took a toll on me.
You're listening to the 87sportsfans.com 2013 NFL Preview Show. Keith Greaves, Steve Taylor, joined by Jim Sarantias and our resident peanut gallery, Jamie Klein. 3 divisions down. Moving on now to the AFC West. Reminder that this and every broadcast is brought to you by CG Imaging. That's cg-imaging.com. Virtually creating reality. So, let's see. Jim, I believe you are up to take the lead on this division.
You know, and it's interesting that this is the most interesting division because a couple months ago, it was so apparent the Broncos would just devastate everybody. They're going to win. I mean, is there a team that they could possibly lose to out there? And I say this, when I wrote about these guys, I entitled it Looking for the Finishing Touch. And when I wrote about their team, I started off by noting the players that they signed as well as re-signed, their own free agents. And if you look at the list, it was Wes Welker, Ryan Clady, left tackle, Chris Clark, left tackle, guard Luis Vasquez, left defensive tackle Kevin Vickerson, defensive tackle Terrence Knighton, linebacker Sean Phillips, linebacker Stuart Bradley, cornerback Quentin Jammer, cornerback Rogers Cromartie. And you just could not look at this team and go, my God, who can possibly beat them? But within the past 30 days, I mean, suspensions, injuries, and then just, you know, the whole backfield situation is a huge question mark, and you kind of go, oh, my God. But the one thing that still remains is Peyton Manning. Mm. And, I mean, you can't help but look at this team. I had them going 14-2 when I wrote this article originally, 13-3 maybe, 12-4, I don't know, but they're winning this division. The Chiefs are going to come in second, 9-7. I think they're a team that I liked what I saw from them defensively the other night. I think Alex Smith is still sort of a wild card. He had a great game a couple weeks ago, but then against his own team, his old team, the 49ers, he didn't play that well. I think they took him out early. Mm-hmm. He wasn't doing very well. And I think Jamal Charles, I love him to death, but I think people might be overhyping him a little bit. So, but I still think they're a second-place team in this division. 9-7, I got them going. Chargers 8-8. You know, they're going to be better than they were last year, but I think they need more changes. And Phillip Rivers, I love Phillip Rivers to death, but I just still haven't seen him recapture his old magic. I think Antonio Gates might recapture his old magic. He's been playing well. He looks healthy for once. But outside, and Ryan Matthews, I think, can actually be a force again if he could just please hold on to the football. Outside of that, I still think they're at least a year away from turning things around. Then the Raiders, there's going to be a lot of changes next year. Everybody's, you know, if you're a Raiders fan, you're talking about, well, it's a rebuilding year where, you know, it's going to take some time. But, you know, it just doesn't work that way. Even if it takes some time, people want you to win. People want you to be in games, and you're just not seeing that. Their offensive line is in disarray. Their defense is substandard. The quarterback situation is up in the air, and it shouldn't be. Terrell Pryor shouldn't be a part of the conversation being a starter in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be, and quite frankly, he deserves to be based on what we saw the other night between him and Matt Flynn. But I got them going 2-14. Somewhere, somehow, they'll pull out a win, but this is just going to be another tough season for Raider Nation, and I feel awful for them.
Yeah.
All right, Steve will go up.
Well, I'm on point with you. The first two, I think Denver's going to be around the 14-2 mark, just because, once again, I always have said do not bet against Peyton Manning. He will find a way. He did last year, coming off of the injury and not playing for a couple years. So 14-2 for Denver, 9-7 for Kansas City. I think San Diego is going to be right around the 500 mark, but a little below. I have them at 7-9. And I agree with the Raiders. I picked them actually only winning one game. I see them going 1-15. They are a hot mess. And they need more help than I think any team in the NFL. really. I think Oakland needs a full overhaul from top to bottom.
All right, we're all pretty much on the same page here. Like Jim, the story you were telling of the last 30 days with the Broncos. You both a couple weeks ago on the show had them at 14-2, and I brought up 12-4, and you guys made me basically sent me to my room without supper. But they'll be 12-4.
But who hasn't done that before?
Pretty much everybody. That line is long and distinguished. Kansas City will be second at 9-7. Andy Reid is an offensive coach, and I think they have the tools there. And they're not bad on the defensive side of the ball.
No.
So they'll be 9-7. San Diego, this team is probably the most enigmatic team. I know Oakland is what it is, but we know Oakland's a mess. We know Oakland has nothing to look forward to. But Phillip Rivers is a good quarterback. Well, he's got his issues, like a bunch of them do. You talk about the Bradys and the Mannings, and then you got that next echelon underneath that of guys that are good, but really need to take that next step, like the Tony Romos and like Rivers, and I believe Jay Cutler's in that second tier, even though his numbers don't really speak to that, but. Phillip Rivers needs to take that next step. And again, Ryan Matthews has not been the solution everyone thought he would. He was not the successor to LaDainian Tomlinson. You think about it. The Chargers let Michael Turner walk because they thought that LaDainian Tomlinson would be that easy to replace, and that has not been the case. They took the right tackle, DJ Fluker from Alabama, try to upgrade that offensive line. But Malcolm Floyd is your number one wideout with Eddie Royal and Vincent Brown. And you have the rookie Keenan Allen, who started the other game the other night. You also have Robert Meacham in the mix. No one knows what to expect from him. And Danny Woodhead, the Darren Sproles, air quote, type player. There's names on that roster. And I didn't even mention Antonio Gates. So there's names on that roster, and they just can't seem to put it together. But this year they have a new head coach in Mike McCoy. Ken Wisenhunt comes over to run the offense. Things could be better. I don't think they will. I'm picking them for 5-11 this year.
Cool.
I think they're going to be they're going to suffer probably the biggest drop, and not that it's the end of the world. It's a team in transition, new coaching staff. I'm not expecting much of anything from the San Diego Chargers. The Oakland Raiders, I pick at 2-14, and basically everything that you all have said is absolutely dead on. They have no sense of identity. No one knows what this team is, not even the front office. All we know is that they are bad, and it all starts with the quarterback position. You get Matt Flynn, who let's I'll be honest about Matt Flynn, okay? He's only a starter because of 2 games that he played in Green Bay for in place of Aaron Rodgers. All right? Yep. Then he goes to Seattle and can't beat out Russell Wilson, who had a phenomenal year last year. But coming in, Russell Wilson was pretty much understood was theoretically not the long-term solution. Obviously, he changed everybody's mind last year. So now he comes to Oakland, and now he's beating back Terrell Pryor. I mean, Come on. So Pryor is a tremendous athlete, did well at Ohio State, but as far as an NFL starter, has not shown the chops at all.
Here's the thing. I'm sorry. Go. Sorry.
No, that's right. It's just Denarius Moore and Rod Streeter right now are at the top of the wide receiver depth chart. There's no targets. Darren McFadden is a one-cut runner, and if he can get that one cut, that's fine. But behind this offensive line, I doubt that that's going to happen. On the defensive side of the ball, Nick Roach comes over from backing up in Chicago to be the middle linebacker of the future, quote-unquote, whatever that means in Oakland these days. Charles Woodson comes over, and apparently they're counting on him to beat down passes in the secondary with his cane. But other than that, there's really nothing to really speak about defensively. Tracy Porter comes to play cornerback, still riding that Super Bowl with New Orleans. The new Larry Brown, I call him. If you remember Larry Brown,
Oh yeah,
was the Super Bowl MVP. Then went to the Raiders and did nothing. Go figure. But this is a bad team, and we will probably be seeing another head coach in Oakland after this year.
And, you know, I actually got into sort of, I did my 5 coaches on the hot seat article, and I can't remember if I put him in at 5th or if it was sort of like the bonus coach on the hot seat, and I mentioned Dennis Allen. And I had a Raiders fan contact me and tell me I was all wrong, and that, you know, it was well understood that, you know, the Raiders are going to rebuild. Exactly what I said when we covered this team. And I'm just like, no, you can say rebuild all you want, but the reality is you're still trying to win today. And everything about this team just doesn't reek of any of that. You mentioned the free agent moves they made. Nothing was exactly right. When we talked about their draft, I can't recall if it was a month ago, 6 weeks. It was like right when I started with you guys. I said, you know, I thought that DJ Hayden was a poor draft pick because they didn't need a top cornerback, because you don't win games with a top cornerback. You win games with your top pick being an offensive lineman, a left tackle that could be a left tackle forever, you know, for the next 10 years, or defensive end, and that's what they needed to start with, and that the defensive back was your pick of luxury once you put everything else into place. And I'm available for the job if they're looking for somebody.
Do you really think you want that job?
I think I love the West Coast. I mean, I swear to God, I love it out there, and I'd go in a heartbeat for this kind of a challenge and to be part of Raiders Nation. I mean, what a storied franchise. You just, you know, you kind of look at them and you go, God, you guys should be better.
Yeah.
And even the Browns, while they were a storied franchise before my time, but I know it's there, and I feel bad for their fans. I know a lot of their fans. I mean, it's like being a Cubs fan, but rooting for the Browns.
Yeah.
If you're a Browns fan and then you watch the team go to Baltimore and then win the Super Bowl in Baltimore, well, you're at the time suffering through the Tim Couch era. You know,
awful.
The ultimate knife in the ribs.
Oh yeah.
I got a question for you guys. Does the Raiders play Jacksonville this year?
I believe they do. I think that's one of the only win I have for them is I believe they're at home against Jacksonville.
That's the game that Oakland will win.
Yeah, they're it's week 2 versus Jacksonville at home.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll tell you the games that sort of they might win. They play the Jaguars in week 2. I originally I think the Eagles are going to be a better team than people might, including how I expected. They play them in week 9, and then they get the Jets in week 14. And depending what happens with the Titans, I mean, if they start getting injuries and stuff, I mean, you know, in football, there's any given Sunday there are just games you're going to win regardless, and there's got to be at least 2 in this grouping that they'll win.
I want to know who put week 3, Oakland at Denver. Who scheduled that on Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football?
Yeah, seriously.
That's your prime time game, huh?
That's going to be like over by halftime. Oh, my God.
Well, you know, I think it was one of the guys there at the NFL that decided to give me a break so I could write the shortest game review ever. It'll just read, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to make light of it, Broncos versus Raiders. Enough said. You know, that's
Done.
it.
Done. If you don't know who to pick in this game, you shouldn't even be reading right now.
Yeah.
So.
You imagine the payout, though?
Yeah, right. If the Raiders freaking pull that out.
I will ask you guys this. Let me interject this quickly. Von Miller's out for, 6 weeks?
Yes.
Do you see that, the fact that he's not going to be there, do you think that will negatively impact their record?
For the first 6 games?
Yes.
No, because I mean, if you look at the Broncos' first 6 games, they start at home against Baltimore. Then they go to the Giants. That could be an issue, but I mean, the Giants' offense isn't really tearing things up. Then they're home against Oakland, home against Philly, at Dallas, home against Jacksonville, at Indy. Oh wait, no. Okay, home against Jacksonville is Game 6. So really, in those games, maybe the Dallas and the Giants, but all the other games are home against teams that are going to be 500 or less. I mean, their offense alone is going to be able to put up at least 40, 50 points against those teams. So even if they give up 35, 40 points, they should still win the game.
Well, you look, who's the next guy up behind Von Miller? It's Sean Phillips.
Which actually ended up being a good signing.
Yeah,
all things considered.
But there's a reason San Diego let him go as well.
Of course,
so.
I get that. But it's better than nothing. I mean, after Sean Phillips, let's see who the next guy up is.
It's let's see, strong side linebacker Sean Phillips, then Larente McCray, rookie, according to ourlads.com, which has the best depth charts.
Yeah,
which we carry on our site, thefantasygreek.com.
And then behind him,
plug. I like that.
Behind him, if it got that bad, the fourth string strong side linebacker, according to this, is Damian Holmes, another rookie. So Sean Phillips better do the job, But they do have a lot of talent elsewhere. Robert Ayers, Champ Bailey, obviously.
Well, and their secondary is stacked. I mean, they've got a strong defensive line and a strong secondary, and that could hide problems or potential problems with your linebacking group. So, I think Champ Bailey, wasn't he a little dinged up on crutches or something?
Yeah, he was a little injured.
Okay, he'll bounce back, and if he doesn't, I mean, I think they can survive without him.
Yeah.
For at least a little while. They got Kayvon Webster, who they drafted, who I think could be a really, really good rookie corner if they need him. And Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie, that was just a great free agent signing.
Do you see who their third string safety is? Quentin Jammer.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, he may not have a lot left in his career, but the reality is, let me see here. Yeah, I mean, he's 34 years old, but the reality is he's a solid veteran, and if you need him to fill in, for a game or two or, half the plays, I'm certain he can do that.
Oh, and now we get a tweet from Steve's brother, Brian. Imagine if the Broncos made an offer to Urlacher. As much as it pains me to say this, Urlacher is done.
Yeah.
There's a reason nobody wanted him.
He's got nothing left. He could barely walk last year.
Yeah.
So, I had a discussion at one of my only live in-person fantasy football draft. We took a break, and somebody had asked me, what about Willis McGahee? Don't you think somebody's going to sign him? And I said, I honestly don't think so. And the reality is you get to a point in your career that even though you might have a year left in the tank, you might be able to fill in. Teams start to look at you as, well, first of all, you have to be willing to accept the league minimum for a veteran. And then secondly, teams look at it as, if I give you a year of play, that takes a year of play away from one of my younger players who could take that year and develop. Exactly. And really, are you going to make an impact in that 1 year? And, my answer to that is probably not.
The big question is whether, now, according to this depth chart, Manny Ramirez, not the Manny Ramirez, but Manny Ramirez is listed as the starting center after, obviously they lost Dan Coppin to injury. Can they keep Peyton Manning upright? So, because as much as we were talking about Von Miller and whether that impacts the record and losing him, if they lose Peyton, the season's over. It's just that simple.
Yeah, but I have faith in Peyton. I mean, he played behind some good offensive lines in Indy, and he played behind some bad ones. And he's smart enough to know when to get rid of the ball. I mean, no one picks out defenses better than him. So when you have somebody with a computer of a brain telling you exactly what is going to be coming at you, I have faith. I think everything's going to be fine.
And I will say that I can't remember if it was week 2 of the preseason or week 3 of the preseason. He took a shot where he fell flat on his back. The lineman drove him into the ground. He got up completely fine, and I thought, wow, if he can get up from this, he must be okay.
Yeah.
Because it's the first good shot I've seen him take since he came back.
Yeah.
And shifting gears a little bit now, you're talking about just what a mess that the Raiders are and everything like that. I called up the 2014 NFL draft prospects for quarterbacks. And there's Teddy Bridgewater from Louisville, who I don't know enough about. But then after that, it's like guys like Taj Boyd from Clemson, Stephen Morris from the University of Miami, A.J. McCarron. Johnny Manziel is listed as the 6th-rated quarterback in this class. There's just no clear answer. going forward. It's going to be a long run.
Dang ya, Raiders.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Alrighty, so that wraps up the AFC West. And so now, before we go to a break, who do you all think is coming out of the AFC for the Super Bowl? We'll start with Steve-O.
Well, I think in the championship game is going to be Denver versus Houston. And Denver, with the records the way I've called them, Denver will have home field advantage. I think a real interesting game is going to be December 22nd when Houston goes to Denver. That, to me, is going to be a good kind of mirror into what could potentially happen in this game. I am going to pick an upset. I'm going to say Houston goes to the Super Bowl. The reason I do say that, and a lot of this is going to depend on what Arian Foster's condition is and how the offense is running, but I think Houston's defense is that solid and that strong. And Denver proved last year that when they played against a superior defense, they were not able to pull it out when they lost to the Ravens. So I see Houston going into Denver. I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to be a high-scoring game, but I think Houston's going to pull it out and go to the Super Bowl.
Wow. Jim?
Well, I agree with Steve that it'll be Broncos-Texans, but, assuming good health. I mean, a lot of this has to do with good health.
Oh, yeah.
I just cannot. I think the big difference between the Broncos of last year and the Broncos of this year is that offense even got deeper with the addition of Wes Welker. I don't know how you cover anybody. Or how about Julius Thomas? Julius Thomas is a tight end that's come out of nowhere that, quite frankly, could easily replace Jacob Tamme and Joel Dreesen and be the next Dallas Clark for all we know. All I know is if you're a defensive coordinator, you're looking around going, okay, I'm going to have to pick my battles on this play. And I think Peyton Manning is going to find the open guy, throw it to the open guy, take what they give him, and I think they're going to be impossible to stop. And I'm taking the Broncos to go to the Super Bowl.
Jim, I agree with you, and I think Houston is going to have another successful year and everything like that. But when it comes down to it, the only thing that stopped Denver last year was the fact that they came up against a defense that was the Ravens, with those names and those players. And that team, as we sit here right now trying to look forward to 2013, that team does not exist. And so who's really
Ed Reed's on Houston?
Yeah, well, yeah, but Ed Reed's not Ed Reed anymore.
Well, here,
Ed Reed is not Ed Reed anymore.
Well, I'm sorry. Make your prediction. I just want to add one thing that I think is very important for people to keep in mind.
No, I'm just the Broncos will be returned to the Super Bowl for the first time since the John Elway era.
Sweet. My thought on all this is, was that funny?
It's just
the way you said
the timing. The timing was everything.
Sweet.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I picked the Ravens to win the Super Bowl last year. Actually, it was funny. This same time last year, somebody out of nowhere asked me who would be in the Super Bowl. I was completely off guard. And I can prove this to you because it is podcasted somewhere. I'd have to go find it. And I threw it out there. I'm like, you know what? It'll be the Harbaugh Bowl. I didn't use those exact words, but it'd be Ravens 49ers. And the one thing I will say that I've learned in trying to predict a Super Bowl is the team that is the hottest, that they could be a better than mediocre team entering the playoffs, but the fact is to get into the playoffs, and I'm talking about the Giants and I'm talking about the Ravens, and their defense suddenly becomes special. They start limiting offenses. They start creating turnovers. They make opportunistic plays. Their offense starts to execute very much like the Packers, and it's executing in a way that they're not making mistakes, and that covers the Packers, the Giants, and the Ravens. Those things start lining up. Those teams are going to win the Super Bowl. So if all those things line up for the Broncos come the end of the year, they should be there.
Heard. Absolutely. Yes, that. Let's see. We're working at 22-11. So why don't we dip into the NFC East before we call a break? One near and dear to Mr. Klein's heart, being a Giants fan. Steve-O, why don't you take the lead on this one?
Okay, this one, I gave a lot of thought to this. And some of my answers are probably going to surprise you.
So your other predictions you didn't give a lot of thought to?
No, I gave thought to them, but this one, for some reason, I got stuck on the NFC East. I spent a lot of time. Now, Jamie will like this. I have always been a very big supporter of the Giants. I think the Giants have always been underrated, even when they were winning Super Bowls. People still didn't believe that they had the right quarterback, the right coach, and they've always found a way to win. I'm looking at their schedule. They have a decent schedule. It's not very difficult. And I'm once again, if they can get everyone healthy again and Cruz can come back 100%, I have the Giants actually winning the NFC East at 10-6. That's what my pick is with them. Dallas, I'm not sold at all, but they do have an unbelievable amount of talent on that team. Romo, as many bad plays as he makes just as many good plays. And they win enough games in the regular season to make themselves at least in the playoff hunt. I picked them going 9-7. This is where I think I'm going to lose a lot of people. I have Washington going 6-10.
Oh!
And the reason I have them going 6-10,
my God,
is there's a couple reasons. First off, RG3 is coming back from his injury, has had 0 play in the preseason. And they're going into, and if you look at it, I believe is going to end up being one of the, if not the toughest schedule in the NFL. It is brutal. Absolutely brutal. I mean, their first games are Philly, Green Bay, and Detroit. Yeah, they got Oakland, but then they got Dallas, Chicago, Denver, San Diego, Minnesota, Philly, San Fran, New York, Kansas City, Atlanta, Dallas, and New York. I mean, that is an intense schedule for a team that, a lot of people forget the first half of last year, they did not really do anything too well. It's just they finished 6-0, which is what got them into the playoffs. But I'm not 100% sold that RG3 is going to be 100% when he comes back. I'm interested to see what happens. But that schedule is just too tough for me, man. I think they're going to be 6-10. And then Philly, I have them actually at 5-11. The reason I have that, I don't think this offense is going to work in the NFL. At Michael Vick, he is on his last leg, and I think if he flounders coming out of the gate, it could be a quick exit for him, and there'll be that whole quarterback controversy going on. I don't see Philly, and once again, they also have a pretty difficult schedule. It's not as tough as Washington's, but I don't think they have the future that everyone's thinking they are right now. So that's what I'm sticking with.
Wow. I'm speechless. Jim?
Okay. I love Steve because I'm agreeing with him. I got the Giants winning the NFC East, and the title of my article about them was Getting Large this offseason. I think the Giants they got a lot of good things going for them. They got a lot of veterans returning. They made a couple nice moves in terms of the draft. They've got a tremendous, tremendous coaching staff, which is very undervalued. I mean, everybody wonders why Tom Coughlin is still the head coach over there. It's because he's a damn good coach. He knows how to put it together. He knows how to get men playing football, all heading in the right direction. And I think it's just time. I don't see Eli Manning jumping back to the quote-unquote elite quarterback that he was a couple seasons ago, but I don't think they need to be in order to get into the playoffs and do well. I still like the Redskins. I think RG3 is fine. All reports of the sideline reporters have been watching him in pre-games is that the kid's fine. He just needs the clearance. They're just making sure that his knee is as strong as it possibly can be. And when RG3 says, hey, I can play, that means I can play. If he had a problem, he would say, I'm waiting for the doctors. He would say something to sort of keep him in good graces with the fan base, and that's not what's happening here. They've still got Alfred Morris. Roy Halou is showing why he could be probably the best backup in the entire NFL. They've got an array of wide receivers, and that defense is one of the most underrated defenses, I think, in the league, and I think it got better than last season. The Cowboys I have in third at 8-8. So I got 10-6 Giants, Redskins 9-7, Cowboys 8-8. And the only reason why I had the Cowboys as 8-8 is I'm not a believer in their offensive line, but I will say this. The one draft pick on Travis Fredericks has really panned out. He is, I think, probably one of the best draft picks that no one will ever really talk about. He can play center. He can play guard. His run-blocking ability alone gives DeMarco Murray more opportunities than before he was part of the team. So they could actually surprise and contend with the Giants and the Redskins and do something this year. I think Tony Romo, this could be one of his best seasons. I also like their defense. Their defense is playing really at a high level right now in the preseason. And then lastly, I got the Eagles at 6-10, and that was before you start looking at what they're doing. And, they look better than they did before. I mean, their offense is running. They're stymieing other opposing defenses. Michael Vick looks strong. He looks like a leader. He looks authoritative. His passes are strong. And those are the kinds of things that you want. But the question remains is, can he make it through an entire season? And that I'm not sold on. Mm-hmm. So given that, that's how I see the division shaping up. And now, Keith, I'm turning it over to you.
I totally disagree with Steve on the Redskins. I have them winning this division at 11-5. I think that RG3 more than Colin Kaepernick, more than Cam Newton. I think Robert Griffin III is going to be the best quarterback out of those three going forward. Then I have the Cowboys at 10-6.
Ooh.
And then I have the Giants. Wow. Then I have the Giants at 8-8.
Wow.
And then I have the Eagles at 7-9.
See, and now here, once again to back up though, I mean, look at the 8 road games that Washington is playing. Mm-hmm. They easily could lose 7 out of those 8. I mean, you're talking Green Bay, Oakland, they'll win. You're talking Green Bay, Dallas, Denver, Minnesota, Philly, Atlanta, and the Giants in December.
Mm-hmm.
Come on. That is one of the most insane road schedules you will see this year.
In a division like this, the NFC East, the AFC North, I think the NFC West is going to be another one. Maybe the NFC North, too, as well, where the teams are pretty even from top to bottom. So I go into it thinking that they're going to win 3 games. They're going to split the division games. They're going to win the home games. Okay. I think this team, is better than the Green Bay Packers. I think that this team. And I'm not. That's not my home. That's not my home field bias.
Who's laughing?
That's Steve.
Steve laughing. That one.
Sorry.
I think that this team is.
Tell.
Obviously,
because if that was Klein, I was going to say a Klein. Wow.
Actually, Jamie lives in Chicago, so maybe you guys are probably.
Jamie and I could get together and we could have.
There you go.
They're better than the Vikings. They'll beat the Vikings on the road. All right. So I think that they're going to win 11 games.
Here's what I'm going to say about the Redskins and their defense, and it's one of the things that I love about Robert Griffin the third, is the bottom line is they would have posted a better record and could have gone deeper in the playoffs if he didn't get hurt. Mm-hmm. I mean, no one had an answer for this kid. And everybody could have seen him coming, come week 18, 19, when you're in the playoffs. And they still didn't have an answer. They had to hurt him to stop him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, it's just a better team all the way around. And that's why I still think that they're contenders. If there's a team that I may have overestimated, I hate saying it, it could be the Giants. But I don't think so. I mean, Victor Cruz is a key part to this. He needs to get back on the field. I so much am hoping Ruben Randall steps it up. I have questions about Hakeem Nicks, even though I ended up drafting him in one of my leagues because I almost had to. He fell to me. And but otherwise they're a solid team. Cowboys are dangerous, man. Des Bryant,
they are dangerous. They are so talented.
Yeah, and I think he can stay healthy this year. I think he's figured it out. I think he's figured out. I just there are things I just don't need to be, doing with my body that I have been doing. Yeah. So, and then the Eagles. I think Chip Kelly's going to be better than people expect. LaShawn McCoy is going to be great. And does Deshaun Jackson mature into the receiver he was, I want to say, 5 years ago? I don't know. But, the question is, Michael Vick, Nick Foles, and no one really talks about. Boy, why is his name slipping?
Which team? Philadelphia?
Eagles. Matt Barkley. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. The draft pick.
I was watching him when he was in, and I almost got a feeling, because they drafted him pretty high. And they probably drafted him because he fell to them. And they were kind of sort of going, guys, here's the number 2 rated quarterback in the league, and he's fallen to us in whatever round that was. It was round 4. Let's take him. He actually looked okay. And I almost think that they might be challenging him. Kind of like, Matt, you're not going to get an opportunity to play this year. We want you to watch. I mean, they're not telling him this. And they're making him play with the third group. And they're treating him awful because where else is he going to go? And I think they're expecting him to motivate and potentially step up. We'll see if that's true. But, I don't think we've heard the last of him.
Yeah.
So this is a tough division. Historically, this is one of the toughest divisions. It's just that when you look at this division now and compare them to the NFC West, to some degree the AFC North, certainly to the NFC North, you're like, yeah, they may not be the toughest division anymore, but there's still some good teams.
And I would have to agree with you about Dallas being dangerous because, I mean, if you think about it, if Des Bryant, Miles Austin, and Jason Witten are all healthy for an entire season, it's hard to find a better 3-receiver combination than those 3 in the entire NFL.
And throw in Gavin Escobar, who, he's making a little bit of noise in this offseason, but, they've been lining up with 2 and 3 tight end sets, which is pretty amazing, if you ask me. Or who else did they got? They got, I think it's James Hanna is the other tight end. I mean, it's a grouping that it's interesting, Again, everybody's sort of saying, okay, we're throwing all these offensive weapons on the field. We've got a 5-man offensive line. Good luck to getting to our quarterback because he's throwing the ball within 2 seconds.
I think that, because Steve laughed so hard at my Redskins prediction.
I laughed inside, by the way.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right.
No, it wasn't your Redskins prediction. It was you saying they were better than Green Bay. That's what I laughed at.
They're better than Green Bay. They're better than Green Bay. And listen to me now. I'm saying it again. They're better. I don't think Green Bay is as good as everyone thinks they are. And we'll get to that in a little bit.
We'll get to that.
Is it because you're a Bears fan?
No, it's not. It's and to be quite honest, I still pick them to win 10 games, but I don't think that they are as lights out as everyone thinks they are. Aaron Rodgers is nice and all, and Eddie Lacy. And again, I'm giving my NFC North pick already. We'll get to that in a minute. Robert Griffin III is the difference maker on that team, and I think that he is the best quarterback in that division right now. Eli Manning.
Here's the thing with RG3 though. He's going to have to alter his game. He cannot play like he did last year, and I bet you the coaches are all telling him that, and everyone's telling him that, listen, you're not going to be able to play like you did, and you have another season of teams being able to study him. So he's got to alter his game, and you have defenses actually able to, as what Jim said, you had people that weren't able to stop him because they hadn't seen anything like him before, because he was as fast as Michael Vick, but he had a very accurate throwing arm, and he was kind of the total package. But now, how is all of that going to be able to mesh together? Is he going to be as good as he was last year? It's a big question mark. You don't know.
I agree that teams have obviously have more time to study him, and it's on him to evolve. I think he will, and I think he'll be unstoppable. Eli Manning, for all of the questions that he answered in 2011, he created that much more in 2012. And again, they had their issues, with that roster, but I don't see him as being the clear-cut quarterback that I was championing him in 2011. I thought that he proved that he was elite. Last year, I started to question my feelings. The problem with the Giants, I think, this year is going to be on defense. And outside of Jason Pierre-Paul, there's nobody that I really, maybe Justin Tuck, that I really get excited about on their front seven.
I was just going to say Justin Tuck. You got to add that.
Yeah. Besides Justin Tuck, there have question marks up the middle at the D tackle spot. Their middle linebacker is Dan Connor, who, if I'm not mistaken, had like 206 concussions when he was in Carolina.
Who? Dan Connor?
Dan Connor.
I think you said Dan O'Connell. Sorry.
No. That was our friend from high school. And no, not Dan Connor from the show Roseanne either. So. And then
in the secondary is a complete mess.
Yeah, Prince Amukamara, he's combated injuries. Corey Webster is he's decent, but then the safeties Ryan Mundy coming over from the Steelers and Antrell Roll. Yeah, they might, but you know what? I got big questions there, and that's why I picked them for 500.
But can I just say one thing though? Exactly what you've said, I've said about the Giants in the past at this exact time of the year with these exact names on their depth chart, and yet these guys in this secondary, not all of them, but I think some of them were on that Super Bowl team.
Right, absolutely, yes.
So, Jim, kind of what you said, it's the coaching. They have an amazing coaching staff.
It's the Giants. The other team that I always say, they can they can take guys and make them play above themselves quicker than anybody else is the Bengals, and I have to say the same thing about the Giants, even though I think the Bengals draft better than the Giants do. But it's the same thing, and it's one of those things that, as a guy that likes to look at the numbers, it doesn't make any sense to say, but you have to kind of once in a while look at an intangible and say, this is important here.
Mm-hmm.
Go Giants.
Yeah, and there it is.
That was awesome.
All right, let's before we head up the rest of the NFC, let's take a quick break, and we'll get to the NFC North, and then I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Whether we wrap it up without taking another break. But you're listening to the 87sportsfans.com 2013 NFL Preview Show. Keith Grieve, Steve Taylor, Jim Sarentius, and the Peanut Gallery, Jamie Klein. We'll be right back.
Come out of the house. I need love. Oh, I need love. Right now. Lay your body down next to mine. You're so fine, baby, you're too fine. Dark after he goes to bed. Remember what we said. We gonna do this right. This is how it's always supposed to be. I need you endlessly. We gonna go all night. Tumble to the ground underneath the stars, underneath the stars. catch my day. Dream weaver, won't you weave a maze for my share?
Pussy holes.
You're listening to the 87 Live
We're back.
NFL Preview Show 2013. Oh, thank God we're back on the air, rescuing me from the insanity that was happening.
Yes. It was a fun commercial break, folks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keith Greaves, Steve Taylor, Jim Sarantias, and Jamie Klein going through the NFL. One real quick note about CG Imaging. What do? They bring your ideas to life with 3D realistic animation. Say you're trying to pitch an idea to your boss, and your ideas and your sketches just aren't doing the trick, go to CG Imaging. Maybe you're trying to sell something to a client and you want to show them what your product will look like in their space. CG Imaging can make that happen. Maybe you're starting a business and you need a logo. Well, they designed our logo and the header for our website, so go to their website, cg-imaging.com. CG Imaging, virtually creating reality. So, for those of you just joining us, we have gone through the entire AFC with Steve-O believing the Houston Texans will represent the AFC, and Jim and I on the Denver bandwagon all the way to the Super Bowl. We just finished up the NFC East. I have higher expectations for the Redskins than everyone else, and they believe the Giants will take the division with the Cowboys lurking.
Believe it or not, I'm agreeing with Keith on the Redskins.
Oh, where were you last segment as I was being laughed at?
So, I got the giggles, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. But no, honestly, I think Redskins are going to probably do it this year. Just a hunch. I'm nervous about the Giants this year. I would love to see them win, trust me. But I don't know. That secondary is all beat up right now. And like you guys, like all three of you guys said, that Dallas is a scary team until the playoffs, and they suck.
And they're led by a ginger.
Yes,
that's right. You know what that means. I can't say it on the air.
No, don't. So heading now into the NFC North, I have the Packers winning this division at 10-6. Then the Bears at 9-7. I wanted to pick the Bears to win this division, not just because I'm a fan. I want to believe that Mark Trestman can make it work. I don't think you're going to see a big drop-off defensively from Chicago.
Not at all.
The question is going to be with that offensive line. And Trestman's done it in the CFL, albeit, but he's made less than stellar offensive line talent work. And it remains to be seen. I wanted so badly, I got all excited for the third Bears preseason game because I'm like, oh, we'll finally see what this team might look like. And then they find out they're playing the Raiders. And it's like, the hell can you glean from that? And sure enough, the game was over before the at halftime, 24-0. But the most enigmatic team in this division is the Detroit Lions, and they're a team where if they get out of their own way, they could be challenging Green Bay for this division. I don't know if Jim Schwartz is the guy to lead this team, and I have them at 7-9, and I skipped over my Vikings pick. I think the Vikings are an 8-8 team. So Green Bay 10-6, Chicago 9-7, Minnesota 8-8, and Detroit 7-9. And I will kick it over to the Fantasy Greek.
You must have copied off my cheat sheet because I basically got exactly what you got.
Great minds think alike.
What's that?
Great minds think alike.
You wish. Anyway. No, here, I think that what you said is absolutely true in the sense that, the Packers, they're the team that's dominated this division. They've got a great offense. Aaron Rodgers, one of the two best quarterbacks in the entire league. What's nice about their defense, and it's really an appreciation that Chicago fans should have, is that their personnel is pretty much identical to last year's, to the year before. There's a lot of consistency. They didn't have a great year last year. That's okay. By having the same grouping, you can sort of get together and get better together. And we've seen some of that, I think, in this preseason. I think their defensive line can play better. Certainly they can play better. And they're not getting what they should be getting out of B.J. Raji. I mean, he's a better defensive lineman than he has played the last couple of seasons. Second place is up for grabs. And it's up for grabs because, to some degree, you just don't know what you're getting from these teams. I mean, Keith, I think you hit it on the head. The Lions, just what an incredible team. The other night, defensively, they were awesome.
They have the talent.
What's that?
They have the talent.
Oh, they absolutely. I mean, you pull up their depth chart, and in a minute, tell me who's on it, and people start nodding there. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've got the personnel, and I can tell you that Jim Schwartz. I know you question him as being his coaching ability. I am concerned that he is on the hot seat for all the wrong reasons, because he coached at the Senior Bowl. I watched the practices that he ran with, I think it was the South team that he coached, and they were phenomenal. The man could run a practice. And if that's how he runs his practice with the Lions, I am stunned if they finish in last place.
You know why I question his leadership ability? And it's got nothing to do with X's and O's. It goes back to the Harbaugh handshake. He made such a big deal about that That tells me that the organization of his mind, where his priorities are. If he's that upset about how an opposing coach shook his hand after the game, it affects. It shows up somewhere. It's not tangible. You can't point to something and say, "See, look, this is the mindset I'm talking about." But it pervades everything, every decision he makes along that. That's his mindset. If that's what he's really worried about, and it's shown in the amount of discipline that this team has shown on the field. And again, you saw him. I've never seen the guy coach up in person, so I will default to you in that observation. But I think that one little incident shows a lot about the head of Jim Schwartz. But that's just my opinion.
See, I think that their problem relates more to their offense. And this is why Reggie Bush was such a great addition this offseason, besides providing an additional dimension sort of to the offense. I mean, you had Matt Ryan, who went from a 40 touchdown per year quarterback to a 20 touchdown per year quarterback, but yet he maintained being a 5,000 yard passing quarterback. And that is all the difference in the world. You can't rely on Calvin Johnson. They need somebody in this grouping of offensive players to step up. Certainly Reggie Bush looks like he's saying, I'm stepping up, and now we need somebody else. I don't think it's going to be Nate Burleson. It could be Brandon Pettigrew, but I think it's Ryan Broyles. If Ryan Broyles has a good season and can stay healthy, I think the Lions have every opportunity to win this division. Defensively, and I just got a chance to pull up their depth chart, I mean, Jason Jones, phenomenal. Nick Fairley, Ndamukong Suh, Ziggy Ansah. Ziggy Ansah is just amazing.
He is the answer.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, he is the answer. That was the joke.
He is the answer. Absolutely. Then you look at their linebackers, I would say solid. Their secondary, they look solid, but they've had issues in the past. And, you got to have a solid secondary to win in this league. If that secondary puts it together, this would be an unstoppable team. I think the enigmas in this whole division are the Vikings and the Bears, because both of them have sort of the same problem, but to different extremes. The Vikings, clearly, their biggest issue is their quarterback play. I keep walking around saying to myself, when are we going to get to see, the Christian Ponder that Matt Spaeth and I, when I was talking to him a couple years ago, he was, he was telling me how in the off season who he works out with, and that he worked out with Christian Ponder, and Christian Ponder was just a phenomenal player, and he just spoke highly about him. Said, his arm was strong, et cetera, et cetera. But we haven't seen that. And if we have, it's so sparing. We're sparingly seeing it, and it's just you're not getting enough of it. So, but I said that last year, and guess what? The Vikings finished 10-6.
And they won 10 games. I mean, if you want, the Vikings cost Lovie Smith his job.
Thank God for that.
And that's a head scratcher. If you're a Chicago fan, you're looking at this going, what? Exactly. So, okay, fine. And so, all right, so you got the Vikings, then you got the Bears. The Bears, and, I am the last person on earth that's a homer. I am a huge critic of them because, to some degree, I get to hear about them every day and get to see them every day. And I think the jury's out on whether or not Jay Cutler is an elite quarterback. Certainly, I would never call him elite. Whether he's a good quarterback, he certainly can be good. He hasn't played well. He could sit there and talk about the offensive line, but even when the offensive line seems to give him some time, sometimes he struggles. Mm-hmm. And I'm just not sure that we're getting what everybody really wants. And I'd like to see him step it up. I'd like to see him, throw the ball to more than Brandon Marshall. I mean, I know he did it against the Raiders, but everybody that jumped on that bandwagon, I kept saying exactly what you guys had mentioned earlier, it's the Raiders. So
what are you really going to pull from that game? I mean, you can't really pat yourself too hard on the back because that team is absolutely decimated.
Exactly. So, they've got a lot to prove. Thank God they have that defense. I mean, they're going to, they'll live and die by that defense. If they finish 10-6 again and don't make the playoffs, I would never be surprised. This is it. They've got Michael Bush for one more year. His contract's up. They've got Jay Cutler for one more year. His contract's up. Robbie Gould for one more year. His contract's up. The main people that they need to do something, this is it. And otherwise, I could seriously see them moving on and sort of changing directions. Whether that's right or wrong, who knows? But so I've got the Packers at 10-6, the Bears at 9-7, Vikings at 8-8, and the Lions at 7-9. And I know I'm going to be eating my shoe on this one when we come back and look at this.
All right, Steve-O.
All right, I'm pretty close with most of the predictions that you both had, except for, and Keith, you know that this hurts me more than anybody. I think that the Green Bay Packers are going to be the team that everyone thought they were last year. Last year, going into the season, everyone was saying Green Bay is going to the Super Bowl. They're going to be the runaway team in the NFC, and I didn't believe it because the one thing I thought that they were lacking was a running game. But I think they fixed that, and another year with Aaron Rodgers, and just like you were saying, Jim, another year of that defense gelling, and hopefully some of the talent and veteran leadership they have is going to gel and actually become a better defense than what we've seen the last two seasons. I have them going 13-3. I think Green Bay is, and I hate it because I hate Green Bay, but I think they are easily one of the best teams in the NFL. And the main reason is Aaron Rodgers. As long as he's on the field and he's healthy, next to Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, I don't trust another quarterback as much as I trust him. Drew Brees, he will find a way to win. Drew Brees, yeah, but I think Drew Brees is crazy talented, but for some reason, he's more like it reminds me more of a Brett Favre, to where I don't know, it just, when he throws the ball sometimes, it's like, is he throwing it to his receivers, or is he just kind of hurling it? To where when Aaron Rodgers throws the ball, it's like, I know that's going to be going to a Green Bay player because he just never turns it over. And I've watched games where I've prayed to whatever God is up there that he would either fumble or throw an interception, and he never does. He is one of the best by far. I have Chicago, and maybe this is a little fan service, but I think they're crazy talented, and they need to. I have them going 10-6. And then I have Minnesota at 9-7 and Detroit at 7-9. But just like you guys are saying, that could easily flip-flop. And pretty much Minnesota, Chicago, and Detroit, their records can all be the same. It's all kind of a mishmash. But I think Green Bay is the easy winner of the North.
I think 13 is way too high. I don't think this team is as good.
We'll see.
I think you guys are giving too much credit to the Vikings. I don't know. I think
Adrian Peterson. It's tough to go against Adrian Peterson. I mean, he willed that team to a 10-6 record last year.
And Jamie, I know exactly what you're talking about because I kept criticizing myself and how I was looking at them. But I'm like, they went 10-6 last season because of Adrian Peterson,
right?
And with subpar quarterback play, where Kyle Rudolph ends up being one of the better tight ends simply because he's got, I forget what he had, 7 or 9 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, yardage-wise, he didn't do squat. But none of the receivers did.
Right.
You look at the Vikings, and ponder's ponder. Okay, and Adrian Peterson is obviously Adrian Peterson, but they add Greg Jennings, right? You got Kyle Rudolph played well, but now you also have John Carlson as the second tight end. So, another option. You have the rookie Cordero Patterson, who nobody really knows what to expect yet from him. But they're decent defensively too.
Yeah.
That is a 500 team if I've ever seen one.
And this is another. I mean, maybe we should give a little credit to their coaching staff for making this team play above what people's expectations are. Because if there was anybody that was calling the Vikings to finish 10-6 last year, please raise your hand and step up and explain to me how it was that a year ago you thought they would finish 10-6. Because I back then I certainly did not see it.
Nope.
Yeah, Leslie Frazier did a hell of a job last year. I mean, it was amazing.
And what's strange is he's not a coach that strikes you when you're hearing him on TV doing a press conference as a riveting, inspiring, maker of men sort of guy.
Right.
Yeah. He sounds like a fan almost sometimes.
Yeah. He kind of does. But
he just gushes about his players like he's watching them from the sideline, which he is. But
and he's a former Bear, so how bad could he be? I mean, really.
That's true. That's true. And I want to just the Lions. I think it's to me, it is so easy to look at them and say this is a team that could even win this division, but they're just sort of something's missing. And, maybe where the coaching problem is with them is in that somehow you're not able to take these players with these great names on paper and get them over the hump. Yeah. But I don't know that that's a coaching problem. I mean, it's like saying Lovie Smith was the problem of the Bears last year. I don't think that Lovie Smith was the problem. It was they needed the right offensive coordinator, which is why I think some people were shaking their heads, like, why did you fire Lovie Smith?
See, with the Bears, it's like a head coach has a certain amount of shelf life, and then the message gets stale. All right? So Lovie came over and took over for Dick Duran. And, Dick Duran was a decent defensive coordinator, really didn't have the head coaching chops. So Lovie takes over and whatnot, they get this team, and they ride Rex Grossman and that wonderful defense to the Super Bowl in 2006. And what happens in 2006 after the Super Bowl? He runs Ron Rivera out of town as his defensive coordinator, and then promotes his buddy Bob Babich to run the defense, who not only was an atrocious defensive coordinator, he was so atrocious that Lovie ended up removing him and running the defense himself 2 years later. So
I only have one word.
What?
Bitter.
What was it?
Bitterness.
No, it's just the guy obviously he's a good coach. I think he can coach football, but you can only make these kind of finger wagging moves, trust me, I know what I'm doing, and then have them blow up in your face so often before it's just time to make a change from a total
Keith,
leadership perspective. How many offensive coordinators have we dealt with just in the last 4 years?
But that's different though. I mean, here's the thing: all the players, basically, all the veterans came out and were on the record about how they were disappointed in losing Lovie Smith. I mean, it wasn't even a close call. He was gone already. They didn't have to say anything. They could have said, yeah, we're fine with it. They could have been honest. They could have said, we hated the guy. Nobody said that. Everybody, people were up in arms. You had a couple players suggest they didn't want to be back on the team. So I don't think it was that his message wasn't being heard. Defensively, it's a mischaracterization to say that the Bears have always been a top defense. It's not exactly true. If you look over the years that Brian Urlacher was with the team, there were certain years that they struggled, and they struggled primarily because they didn't get as many turnovers as people associate with their better defenses, as well as defensive touchdowns. So going back to the offensive coordinators, well, that's the problem. So go get the right offensive coordinator. And that's what he couldn't do. Mm-hmm. And all it really took was a general manager to say, well, here's who we're bringing in. I don't care who it is that you want. Here's who I want.
Well, and then you have the infamous Jerry Angelo era that I've repeatedly harped on. The fact that there's not one single, and now with the trade of Gabe Carimi in the offseason, there is not one single first-round pick from the Jerry Angelo era still on this roster. And then his successor... what's his name? Phil Emery goes out and drafts Shea McClellan last year in the first round. And then he seems to have maybe found a winner in Kyle Long this year, but when he made the draft pick was kind of, questioned. But his first draft last year, his second round pick, Alshon Jeffrey, may turn out to be a better pick than his first round pick. So there's not really that sense of, okay, this is where we're going, guys, in the front office, because there's questionable decisions being made left and right. The players loved Lovie Smith, but not many offensive players went on the record. To me, it was all defensive players like Charles Tillman. I know Brian Urlacher wasn't happy. Lance Briggs wasn't happy. Devin Hester, I know he's a wide receiver, but he's really a kick returner. Not many people on the offensive side, that I heard anyway, were sounding off in support of Lovie Smith. And at the end of the day, if you're going to make that decision to, you ride this out as much as you possibly can, there are so many little things. And now that we're talking about it, Jim, it's coming to my memory. The way that he handled the Ron Rivera situation and the defensive coordinator situation, and then the offensive coordinator situation, and then the way that they hung Jay Cutler out to dry in the NFC Championship game, You take your quarterback out, the history of Jay Cutler, and Chicago sports fans, and then give the guy a couple of crutches and say, just carry these. You know what I mean? Because if you sit down and you're walking around fine and you can't play, you're going to get lambasted. They hung him out to dry completely in that game. It's just a lot of little things that from a football X's and O standpoint, it's hard to justify the firing of somebody after a 10-win season. But when you look at it all, at the end of the day, I think it was unfortunately the right thing to do. And I'm sure Lovie Smith will get another job somewhere and probably be very successful.
Jamie, I'm curious what you think about the prospects for the Bears this season, given their off-season moves from the coaching staff straight on down to their draft picks, and sort of what we're seeing right now in the preseason, if not technically in the games, maybe what we're seeing of the players.
Definitely the defense is going to be just as good as it was last year. I don't think there's going to be much change at all. And I think Keith or you guys, Jim, you might have said it. I forgot, someone said that, and I totally agree. I think the defense is going to be awesome. Devin Hester is, I don't know what's going to happen with him. I'm kind of confused with Devin Hester's role on the team, because everyone knows not to kick to him, and he sucks as a wide receiver. So I don't know. I think he needs a couple more touchdowns, I think, right, to get in the Hall of Fame, supposedly. That's the rumor, at least.
I'd have to pull out my NFL record book, but I'm pretty sure that the way it boils down is that Josh Cribbs and Devin Hester control all the kick returning sort of accolades, and one is on kick returns and one's on punting. I just, off the top of my head, can't recall which is which.
Okay, all right. The addition of the new tight end will be interesting. Bennett, he was really good on the Giants. I don't know why the Giants got rid of him, but I can't put too much stock in the preseason. I know they're not throwing to him right now, but I don't think that's going to mean anything. The Forte is amazing. I think he's going to be just as fine. I think the offensive line got a little bit better. I'm not saying a lot. I think a little bit better. And as long as Cutler's got the protection, he can be good. I don't think he's necessarily a bad quarterback. He could be. I don't even know. I don't want to say elite. I'm going back on that. He's okay. He needs protection, and he's also kind of like a head case, I think.
He's got that facial expression problem. He seems like a pouty little girl a lot of times.
Oh, he's not afraid to admit it either. Did you guys see that one? I think it was a Sunday night game or Monday night game. What he told Martz there that the cameras caught.
No, I missed that. I'm forgetting it.
He goes, "Tell Martz to F off."
Oh.
Yeah, and it was caught. It was, at least in Chicago, they played it over on the radio.
I'd tell Martz to F off too. I mean,
he's not very good.
He also cost us Greg Olson too.
Yes.
Can I tell you guys something? Martellus Bennett. I remember when the Bears signed him. I was excited too. I mean, they released two really good traditional tight ends after they signed him. But tell me whose stats these are. 55 receptions, 626 yards receiving, 5 TDs. Does that sound like Martellus Bennett?
No.
That is Martellus Bennett. Yeah. That's what he posted last year for the Giants.
He had 5 touchdowns. He had a lot of yards, but he didn't have quite as a lot of touchdowns.
You said,
but those stats don't reflect a top tight end week after week after week. It reflects a tight end that had some very good games spread out. Oh, what's going on here?
That's Martellus Bennett's rap about Captain Crunch.
So I eat Captain Crunch. I love Captain Crunch. It's my favorite type of lunch.
My God.
I eat a whole
So if I didn't mention Martellus Bennett, you were just somehow going to bring him up and play that.
No. You mentioned it, and I went and found it really quick.
Oh, jeez.
Because that's how quick I am. Just like I was about to... Last week, we were talking NBA, and Monty mentioned Hashim Thabit, and I found the Go-Go's We Got the Beat.
Sweet.
Yeah, so...
Here, Jay Cutler. This again in my NFL draft guide. I pointed this out. The last time Jay Cutler threw for 4,000 yards or more was when, guys?
Well, he's on the
under
Broncos,
Josh McDaniel.
Okay, what year?
2006, 2007?
2005.
Close.
No, 2000. It was 2008, wasn't it?
It was 2008.
Wow.
2008. That's the last time he threw 4,000 yards. Which is why the love affair with Jay Cutler, especially in fantasy football, just stymies me. The same love affair occurred last year when they picked up Brandon Marshall. I thought to myself, well, this is good for Brandon Marshall, but it doesn't mean that it's good for Jay Cutler. It could be, but are you going to go out on a limb and take Jay ahead of, I don't know, name a second quarterback.
You can't throw for major yards when you can't stay upright.
Yeah.
You know?
Right. And that problem never went away. And, you know, it was really one of these issues that this particular offseason, I think, really came to the forefront that not a lot of people talked about. They only talked about, there's a lot of great left tackles or a lot of great tackles in this draft. But there were a lot of needy teams. If you couldn't get a great tackle, well, then you better go get one of the great guards. Because next year, who knows what the class is going to be like. And I'm assuming, I don't know this, the class will be different. It usually is.
Yeah, it probably will be. I think so, too.
So, you know, I think the Bears ended up with Kyle Long, and this is just sort of as an outsider looking at the facts. They signed, you know, Mark Anderson from the Panthers. They also ended up signing, I got this backwards, don't I? Let me see here. Is it DJ Anderson?
Who?
That I don't know.
Okay, they ended up, DJ Williams and then James Anderson.
James Anderson, yeah.
Sorry. So they made these 2 offseason moves, and I think that sort of set the Bears up to say, hey, we signed these guys. I know we signed a bunch of offensive linemen, too. Maybe we're not comfortable with Alec Ogletree with the off-the-field issues. We're not comfortable with Manti Te'o with the off-the-field issues. We'll go, you know, with a solid guard or somebody that considered a solid guard and Kyle Long. And you kind of look at this and you kind of go, well, wait. I mean, I met James Anderson. He's a great guy. I remember asking him what he thought of Chicago. And my question was really geared towards, what do you think about the city of Chicago living here as opposed to Carolina? And he actually didn't answer my question. He ended up saying, oh, you know, I love being with the Bears. I mean, you know, you had Dick Butkus, Mike Singletary. I'm a linebacker. This is the best place on earth to play. And I thought to myself, that's the greatest answer on earth, even though here we were just having a casual conversation.
Right, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, I have a lot of respect for that guy. But you see Alec Ogletree with the Rams, he's just tearing people up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was your next, you know, and I'm not trying to take anything away from John Bostic. So far, he's been great. And I'm looking forward to seeing if he could keep this up. But, you know, you're kind of looking around going, where's this all coming from? What do we want to achieve this year? So, I don't know. I'm still kind of, the situation with Chicago is just not ideal, and that for me is not what's sitting right for me.
Right.
Well, we've got more issues. I mean, Peanut Tillman's not getting any younger.
Yeah. No. There's some big decisions to be made coming up here.
Jim, I think you nailed it when you said this is kind of like the make or break season. You know, Bears really got to do something amazing this season, and because everyone's contract is going to be up, next year is going to be scary for a Bears fan.
And I mean, you know, I don't know. I haven't had a chance to start looking ahead to see which quarterbacks are going to be free agents next year, and you know, obviously we don't know how the Bears are going to finish, so that could affect it. But you know, it could end up that Jay Cutler's the guy to keep because there's just not many other quarterbacks out there.
Right.
But I mean,
they also said, I think I read somewhere that Jay Cutler is the Bears' best quarterback they've ever had since I don't know,
Sid Luckman.
Sid Luckman, thank you. Yes.
No, he is, and it's the thing is that the Bears got to the defense or the Super Bowl on the backs of their defense. So when you hear that, you know, you get a quarterback with the talent as far as the arm strength and what he was able to do under Josh McDaniels in Denver. You hear that he's coming to the Bears, you know, who have, you know, suspect offensive line issues all along, but you think, wow, what can he do if they got to the Super Bowl with just the defense? What can they do with a quarterback like that? So the expectation gets repped that much higher, and it's just hasn't happened yet. And then you get to the NFC Championship game, and you know, you get the injury and he can't play. He tries to go out. He tries to gut it out, but he doesn't look like he's gutting it out. You know what I mean? He wasn't laying on the field writhing in pain. You know what I mean? Pounding on the ground. No, he's sitting there walking on the sidelines looking like everything's fine, saying, yeah, I'm injured. It just seems like everything this guy does just doesn't meet expectations for whatever reason.
And, you know, just so, because at some point we can't make this all about the Bears with all the other people that might be listening to the show. You know, the reality is this is a division that potentially could be up for grabs. But the Packers, they're the team, and their fans have every right to brag about them, as far as I'm concerned. And I that's the team to beat, and I think the only way to beat them is either to really come together or some things fall your way. I mean, maybe the Packers need to suffer some injuries, and that's how you leapfrog ahead of them. But until that happens, it's Packers.
Hey, listen to this now. I went to sporttrack.com and I have the Bears contracts by year. So these are the amount of these are the players that are currently under contract that are, according to this website, ready to be unrestricted free agents next year. Okay.
All right.
Jay Cutler, Henry Melton, Charles Tillman, Tim Jennings, Devin Hester, Robbie Gould, Roberto Garza, Major Wright, Corey Wooten, DJ Williams, James Anderson. That's a lot of decisions to make.
Lots.
Jamarcus Webb, which
I forgot
probably
about
not.
Dustin Hester. Or Devin Hester.
But even the lower paid guys, Calvin Hayden, Zachary Bowman.
But here's the thing: the lower paid guys are they're going to probably be able to resign. They're not going to resign them first. They'll start at the top down, which is why this is a big decision on Jay Cutler. Mm-hmm. I mean, if he has a tremendous season, and every arrow points in that direction. New head coach, last year of your contract, improved offensive line. They did actually bring in additional offensive weapons, which, we haven't exactly seen what we're going to get out of them, including their draft picks. But all arrows are pointing that way. And that's why you have to believe it's going to happen for the Bears. But the question again is, can Jay Cutler really do this? Because he hasn't done anything since 2008.
Right.
So until that happens, we just don't know.
Yeah.
And there it is. All right, well, let's take a break, and then when we come back, we got 20 minutes left in the show. We'll hit up the NFC South, the NFC West, and we'll give our NFC Conference Champion prediction and our Super Bowl prediction. You're listening to 87 Live, the NFL preview show on 87 Sports Fans Radio. We'll be right back.
Day catcher, won't you catch my day? Dream weaver, won't you weave a maze for my shattered love today? My shattered love today. Day seeker, is it just a phase? Dream maker, will it go my way? For my shattered love today. My shattered love today. Scene stealer, did I get in the way? Light taker, did I block the rays for my shattered love today? My shattered love today. Scene filler, didn't leave a trace. Light filter, did it start to fade for my shattered love today? My shattered love today. Day seeker.
I gotta get a quick drink, but I'll be quiet.
Yes, Jamie's going to get a drink. You all just heard that.
Quick drink.
87sportsfans.com NFL preview show, the final segment. The NFL, or the NFC South, the NFC West, and our NFC champion and Super Bowl champion picks coming up. We are running quick on time here. We got about 17 minutes left. So without further ado, Steven, lead us off with the NFC South.
NFC South. NFC South, I think it's going to be kind of a tight race for number one, but I believe one of the best teams, at least on paper right now, is the Atlanta Falcons. They've done nothing but improve upon a team that was very close to making it to the Super Bowl last year. I picked them right now going 13-3. I think it could possibly be more. But as of right now, I have them 13-3. Right on their heels, I have the New Orleans Saints, who I think with Sean Payton back, there's going to be a resurgence with the team, and they're going to kind of get back to form. I have them going 11-5. Tampa Bay is the next team. I have them as an 8-8, 500 team. I think they're a solid team. I don't think they have anything that's going to blow anyone away, but I think they are solid. And I'm not sold on Carolina. I'm just not whatsoever. I have them going 6-10, and that's my NFC South.
All right, Mr. Sarentius.
Okay, I'm agreeing. The same team, same order. Here's why. Falcons 10-6. They're going to rise up in 2013. They certainly improved with Steven Jackson. I am concerned about their offensive line. The fact that they released Ryan Clabo was not a very smart move, especially now that their starting right tackle is injured or done for the season. But here's the thing. If you, in my draft guide, I have a table called quarterback defense pairings. If you drafted Matt Ryan, you could have drafted a defense that he would never play this season. And here they are, Texans, Broncos, Bears, Bengals, Ravens, Steelers, Giants, Vikings, Colts. In other words, but the 49ers and the Seahawks, Matt Ryan does not play any of the top defenses in this league, and therefore they will finish number one. Number two will be the Saints at 9-7. It's not about Sean Payton. This was a 7-9 team with a terrible defense last year. Their defense has improved. They're showing it right now in the preseason. They finished 9-7. They just can't keep up with the Falcons. Buccaneers, I'm worried about them. I love their defense, but their offense is not doing well in the preseason. They have yet to have a passing touchdown, believe it or not. And, I'm starting to look at them and say, this team might possibly be in trouble. I have them as a 500 team, but I could see that changing, and I could see that Josh Freeman may not be the quarterback the entire season. So that means the Panthers could leapfrog out of the cellar. I have them at 6-10, but I think defensively they're a better team, and we're seeing that this year. So believe it or not, I think it's the Buccaneers that might end up in last.
Honestly, I'm right there with you, Jim. I got the Falcons at 11-5. And then the Saints at 10-6. I think there's a lot more to missing Sean Payton than everyone wants to admit to. But they still do have question marks. I mean, this was a team that regularly was a 12, 13-win team. So 10-6 sounds a little bit optimistic, but I don't really think it is. I think that's a little bit less than what we've known them to be. So 10-6 for them, and then the Carolina Panthers 6-10. They have not established an offensive identity, even with Cam Newton. D'Angelo Williams has not looked like D'Angelo Williams, and Jonathan Stewart, my nemesis, my fantasy nemesis, is injured and banged up, and Steve Smith is not getting any older, and Brandon LaFell always seems to be on the cusp, but never really answering the bell. Defensively, the Panthers, I think, will be phenomenal, but I don't think there's enough touchdowns in that offense, and therefore I have them at 6-10. And you stole my thunder, Jim, about Tampa Bay, because I'm hearing rumbling that Mike Glennon might be the opening day starter, but that seems to have gone away. So I agree with you that Josh Freeman may not be the quarterback by the end of this season.
And if anybody's out there listening, my article that's it's Fantasy Football Preseason Week 3, some more things we learned. I gave you the numbers right there on Josh Freeman. They are not pretty.
No. And I have the Buccaneers at 5-11. So, NFC West. Jim, why don't you take us home? Lead us off for the final division.
Okay. Toughest division, I think, in the NFL right now. Seahawks, I have them coming in first, 12-4. I don't think they're giving Russell Wilson the credit that he deserves. He may not be a 300-yard passing quarterback, but you don't need to be one. You can be 180 and throw for 2 to 3 touchdowns. They have a great stable of running backs. They have what I consider to be the number one defense. They finish in first. Right on their heels, and I think they can finish 12-4 too, is the 49ers. No one is giving credit to Colin Kaepernick. You just look at the numbers and extrapolate them out to a full season, and you realize that he can be a top 5 quarterback. I mean, I've seen analysts say, well, you shouldn't be extrapolating the numbers. Well, it begs the question, well, then what should you be doing? Because it's hard not to look at him and say, look, even if you don't just extrapolate it, I mean, just look at it normally and say, this guy is good. And even when he struggled this past week, in his first few passes, he eventually settled down, and even as he proved in the Super Bowl, he ended up with a great stat line. Good defense, good offense. Anquan Bolden's going to be great. Vernon Davis is going to be great. 49ers are in second. Cardinals. Phoenix Rising. Carson Palmer is the ticket. Now we get back to offensive line issues with Jonathan Cooper having broken his leg. I think Bruce Arians is a good enough offensive mind to keep the ball moving, to keep Carson Palmer out of harm's way. But because of the schedule, they still finish 7-9. Right direction, just bad timing. The Rams, best defense on paper, but even if you're the best defense on paper, unless the offense is good, and I think this is a decent offense, they can play better than many expect. The problem is again, the schedule, who they're up against in their own division, 6-10.
Alrighty. Steve-O.
All right. I'm kind of agreeing with Jim. I have Seattle. I think they're going to finish 12-4. Mainly, the only reason I'm putting them over San Francisco, who I have 11-5, is Seattle has what looks to be a favorable schedule, a little bit easier than San Fran's. But once again, both those teams I think are going to be very even going into this season. I have Arizona at 7-9. And I have St. Louis actually at 4-12. I'm not going to give them as much of a buffer just because I think some of their road games are going to be a little bit more difficult this year. So I don't see them doing too well. And I think the loss of Steven Jackson is going to affect them a lot. That's me.
All right, NFC West for me. I have the Niners winning this at 11-5. They're just too good of a team. Even they have. I was looking at their depth chart about as far as wide receivers, and with Crabtree injured, Anquan Bolden obviously coming over from Baltimore, but Kyle Williams is listed as their number one wide out, with Chad Hall and Marlon Moore the next guys up. There's questions there, and I know they just made the trade for Jonathan Baldwin, and who knows what's left in that tank, if there's even a tank on that. But Kaepernick is the X factor. If he puts up numbers like he did last year, again, teams have had an offseason to game plan against him. It's not going to be easy, but we'll have to wait and see. Frank Gore is not getting any younger, but LaMichael James behind him and even Kendall Hunter might be able to pick up the slack. I'm not buying the Seahawks, and I know Russell Wilson was phenomenal last year. But to me, if there is a rookie quarterback that is going to take a step back in his second season, whether it be flagrant or just very, a slight blip under what they did in their rookie year, it's Russell Wilson. And I have the Seahawks at 9-7, even with that phenomenal defense. The St. Louis Rams at 7-9. I don't think they'll miss Steven Jackson as much as you think. I think the stable of backs, whether it's Darrell Richardson, whether it's Isaiah Pede after the suspension, or even Zach Stacy, I think they'll be able to figure that out. And the Cardinals, Bruce Arians takes over. I don't think Carson Palmer is really the long-term answer, but it's a nice Band-Aid, but they'll win 6 games, and they're last at 6-10 in that division. So any thoughts?
Yeah, I'll say, one of the issues that's bothered me this offseason is quarterbacks taking a step back. Everybody talks about all the rookies, and I suppose if you had to pick one, you're going to pick one. But how about none of the rookie quarterbacks take a step back in their second year?
I agree.
Andy Dalton didn't take a step back his sophomore season. So why does anybody else have to? So far in the preseason, every single rookie quarterback from last year has played to at least last season's level, if not better. And that's why I just don't see it happening. I will pick, as the NFC champ, even though I took the Seahawks to win the division, I'm taking the 49ers, and I'm taking them because I think they're hungry. It's going to be like the Bills, where the Bills, 4 years in a row went to the Super Bowl and didn't win it. 49ers get back to the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, wow. So there's your NFC prediction right there.
Yep.
Steve,
I'm gonna have to agree with you, Jim, though, on I don't see any quarterbacks taking a step back, especially Russell Wilson, just because a lot of people are saying they're comparing him not with running quarterbacks like RG3 or Kaepernick. They're comparing him with running quarterbacks like Steve Young and Aaron Rodgers. And what they're saying is yeah, he's a running quarterback, but he doesn't get hit a lot because he knows when to either get out of bounds or to get down. Which I'm kind of wondering if it's just because of his size, but I see him. He is a very smart quarterback, and he's somebody that I think can continue on where he's going. But I honestly, and once again, I'm going to cause probably a lot of groans. I think Green Bay is going to take the NFC. I think they're going to go to the Super Bowl.
Green Bay, wow.
Green Bay. I'm telling you.
All right. Well, with Russell Wilson, I think Russell Wilson benefited. Wilson would have had a phenomenal year. I take nothing away from it. But he kind of came. Remember, at the beginning of the year, Matt Flynn was supposed to be the starter, and so I don't think anybody really took Russell Wilson seriously. So he was able to sneak up on some people.
No one took Kaepernick seriously either.
Yeah, but there was people that knew that eventually Kaepernick was a threat. But but the same thing. Kaepernick could take a step back as well, but I like Kaepernick's athletic ability more than I like Russell Wilson's athletic ability, personally.
Who's your NFC?
My NFC pick would have to be the San Francisco 49ers. I just think they have too much. But I picked that because I really don't want to pick the Falcons, but I think it might be the Falcons and the 49ers again in the NFC Championship game. I don't think Matt Ryan can get it done, and I think San Francisco does.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, Jim. So your Super Bowl then is Denver and San Fran. Who do you have winning the Super Bowl?
I'm going to take San Fran.
San Fran.
And really, I'm biting my tongue on it. I could think of a million reasons why the Broncos should win it, but I'm a firm believer. I think that this is a 49ers team that walked out of that Super Bowl just kind of saying, okay, Let's get back to work.
Right. So, Steve, your Super Bowl matchup is the Packers and the Houston Texans.
I foresee the Houston Texans winning the Super Bowl this year.
Wow.
I think they have the talent on offense. They have the talent on defense. I think they're just as hungry as San Fran, and I have a lot of faith in that team this year.
Wow, you have plenty. So Jim and I identically picked the Broncos and the 49ers. However, I think by the time the Super Bowl rolls around, that Denver's defense will be pretty amazing and athletic enough to contain Colin Kaepernick. And I think that the Peyton Manning factor will then come into factor, and I will pick the Denver Broncos to win the Super Bowl. So we have three different Super Bowl predictions.
I think these are all reasonable choices. Jamie, what do you think?
I'm going with the Burdick Super Bowl. 49ers versus the Cincinnati Bengals.
Oh, boy.
Who wins it?
49ers.
Wow.
Our friend Mike, his wife, he's a 49er fan. His wife is a Bengals fan. So that will be an interesting household if that happens.
I have a question. Does anybody know? Does anybody know? Because if the 49ers in fact win, Anquan Bolden would have been in two Super Bowl, be a Super Bowl champ 2 years in a row, but on two different teams.
Oh, that'd be cool. That's cool.
Anybody else do that before? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever done that. Yeah. I'm trying to think back all the teams. God.
So looking back on this show, guys, what do you think? I mean, think different things we said, different things, people thought, what might have been shocking,
we were talking about the Patriots earlier in the show. And, while we were on the air, they released it became news that the Patriots released Razai Dowling, their second-round pick, cornerbacks. So it started me thinking, while I was trying to talk and listen to everybody, is the luster starting to come off Bill Belichick as a talent evaluator? I mean, how many guys has he missed on recently? I mean, Albert Hainsworth. Who else?
I don't know if the luster's off. I mean,
not as a coach, but
it would have to affect their record for me to think the luster's off, because he still is able to find these guys that no one has ever heard of and turn, with the help of Tom Brady, has helped to turn a lot of players into bona fide, multi-million-dollar role players on either, wide receiver, running back, or whatnot.
That man is going nowhere unless that team starts losing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go into that territory, but.
Hey, here's the thing. I think he's overrated because everybody forgets Bill Belichick is a former defensive coordinator. He's a defensive guy. The whole thing with Tom Brady has really nothing to do with them, except that he's part of the process. And the Patriots' defense is, up until this year, it's been quite a few years before any one of us could sit there and say, "Oh, the Patriots, they have a great defense."
Yeah. I think the thing with Belichick is he just reminds me of an old school disciplinarian. There's too many coaches nowadays that are like the player's friend and the buddy, and that's what a lot of the players on the Bears were saying about Lovie Smith and why they didn't want to see him go, is because he was a great guy. But Belichick is one of those old school coaches that you say what he wants you to say. You do this and this with the playbook. You do what he says. You don't see that very often. I think that's something that's lacking with a lot of teams.
I found a website, the nepatriotsdraft.com, and there's a page, Patriots free agency history, and some of the additions that they've made that just kind of you scratch your head a little bit about. But but they weren't guys that like you would anticipate them being like the end all be all. Guys like Cam Cleveland or something like back in the day. Christian Foria. Just scrolling down the. Remember they had Brian Cox at the end.
Oh yeah.
Andy.
But while you're doing that, the one thing I really take away from this tonight is the thing I love the most about the NFL is, even though we're probably right about how these records are going to go, there's still that chance that it will be the St. Louis Rams versus the Oakland Raiders. It is a small chance. It is a almost, impossible chance. But because it's football, and like they say, that's why they play the games, you never know. Like, we could be completely off on everything we said. And that's what I love about football.
Looking at your predictions, what's the one prediction that you think is most likely to be wrong?
Most likely to be wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's a tough one. I would have to say probably New England. Because, once again, I still have faith in them, but out of every team that I think all the off-season crap that's gone on with Aaron Hernandez and having the wide receiver core pretty much being new to Tom Brady, and that, to me, they could be more along the lines of what you were saying. I mean, I'm expecting them to be the 11-5 team I picked, but if they were 8-8, I don't think I'd be shocked. I'd be surprised, but I don't think I'd be shocked.
Or 9-7 like I picked.
Yeah.
That was my little dig there.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Jim, real quickly, you have a pick that you're nervous about?
Yeah, I would say it's the Ravens. And I mentioned it, the AFC North, I think, is really up for grabs. And, at the end of the day, while I think this is a great team, they should be able to get it together, it's one that makes me nervous.
Well, you hear the music, folks. It has come to an end. That is the end of the NFL preview show. Thank you, Jamie Klein and Jim Sarantias, for joining us.
Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.